Welcome in to Check the Mic. Steve Palazzolo, Sam Monson. We're live for our Week 6 NFL review right here at the Antonio Cromartie studio in part with Huggies. And it's time to go game by game. It's all brought to you by FanDuel. Week 6, man. Mostly in the books. Still have a doubleheader tonight. You love this. The Monday Night Football doubleheaders. But it's time to go through the games here.
Let's go.
You ready?
Yep.
It all started Thursday night.
It all started.
Always feels like it was so long ago, but not for Giants fans. Riding that high since Thursday night because the Giants defeated the Eagles 34-17. And it wasn't just riding a high. It was like the start of something new for the Giants. Their second win of the season, their second win in 3 weeks with Jackson Dart as the starter. Cam Scatterboo with 3 touchdowns. You had Dart, and Scatterboo's ripping his shirt off. They're posing for pictures. A lot has happened in Giants land over these last few weeks. Break it all down.
Well, Jackson Dart coming in, there's been the excitement just for not having Russell Wilson, right? And we got a couple of snaps of Russell Wilson in this game, and immediately he's just getting booed by the Giants fans. Was it only one snap? Anyway.
One pass.
Right.
Maybe 2 snaps.
Yeah. So Russell Wilson comes in, no hoping situation, third down, I think. Miscommunication between him and Jalen Hyatt. Ball in the dirt, and immediately the entire stadium's just like, boo! This is why we wanted you on the bench in the first place. So just getting him out of the lineup has been a cause for excitement for Giants fans. But that doesn't mean that Jackson Dart has actually been playing well up until this point. However, in this game, Dart was absolutely balling. Some of his best passes fell incomplete. I mean, there was 2 more touchdowns where he had the ball in the hands of receivers in the end zone with perfect ball location. The first one, he just couldn't come up with it. The second one was pass interference, so that set them up for a Scatterboo touchdown. But, man, Jackson Dart looked really good in this game for, I think, the first time so far in the NFL against the Eagles. And whatever about, look, they were missing a couple of players on defense, and they were important players. Jalen Carter, a defensive tackle. Quinyon Mitchell left the game pretty early, so they were down a couple of important players. I mean, he looked like that without his own important players. No Malik Neighbors, no Darius Slayton. Like he's getting it done with little Jordan Humphrey as one of his alpha receivers in this thing. So phenomenal game from Jackson Dart. Scatterboo is Scatterboo every week. The dude is just fun to watch. And the Giants got it done.
We just tell it like it is here, Sam. We told it like it was 2 weeks ago when they beat the Chargers, and I know there was excitement, and I know Brian Daboll has been looking longingly into Jackson Dart's eyes for weeks now.
Amazing.
Right? But this was the first game I think they put it all together. Week 1, I thought it was uneven passing game, but Jackson Dart's legs were a huge factor in some turnovers. Against the Saints, I thought he threw the ball better, but there were some turnovers from the Giants in that game, including Dart just dropping the ball, turning it over with a fumble. This was the first game I thought they put it all together. Designed running game, scrambles. The first touchdown, 15-yarder, he jukes Zach Bond. And I suggested, much like Patrick Mahomes has this like little voodoo magic when he scrambles, when he's always either outrunning defenders or makes good athletes look bad in space. Like Jackson Dart had that on that run and some other runs that we've seen. And then he adds the passing component, as you said, throwing to Lil Jordan Humphrey, throwing to Wan'Dale Robinson. It is such a story of the season when teams are depleted. Offensive linemen down, wide receivers down, and how do you react? And we often use the excuse, well, they didn't have these guys. They didn't have those guys. But when they overcome it, much like Baker Mayfield's doing in Tampa Bay, it means a lot. And I think, the Giants being able to overcome some of their injuries. Yeah, the Eagles had their own injuries. Every team has it. But this offense looks good, right? Like very early in the season, we said, it kind of looks like last year's offense where Daniel Jones was throwing, 5.8 yards per attempt, and there's no explosiveness. At least since Dart's taken over, there's some big play ability in there. And then just the Scatterboo factor, 3 touchdowns as an absolute battering ram, which we knew coming in to the season. We knew that would be a thing.
Yeah, I mean, Scatterboo is the same player that he's always been, and that is really good. Like, he was a classic example, I think, of people focusing on the limitations during draft time as opposed to what he's really good at. And what he's really good at plays at the NFL level. It plays at every level. Maybe it's more impactful in high school and then lower level college and whatever. Like, it plays less the higher you get, but it still plays in the NFL. He's really difficult to tackle. There was a play where he ran right into Jordan Davis, at nose tackle for the Eagles. Okay, he's got some blocking help, a guy engaged with Jordan Davis at the time. But Jordan Davis is like 350 pounds of nose tackle who is specifically there to stop this happening. And Scadaboo drives into him and drives him 3 yards backwards in the contact. Like, very few players can do that at the NFL level, even powerful running backs. He looks fantastic. The Jackson Dart thing, he was significantly better, I think, than the box score. He ends up with fewer than 200 total passing yards. Again,
it's a Bryce Young. We'll call it a Bryce Young. We came out of it very encouraged.
Well, it was
by
like
his
last
ability.
year. Yeah, late last year, Bryce Young, where for some reason every week the stats never quite matched what he was doing on the field because of people like Xavier Leggett. And this was the case for Jackson Dart in this game. He was also absolutely money on third down, which is a big factor here. Sure, maybe there was the passing yards weren't spectacular, but so much of it came on third down. The team was 11 of 16 on third downs. Meanwhile, the Eagles were 1 of 9. Like, that was one of the tales of this game, is the Giants converted almost all of their third downs. The Eagles barely converted anything. Just an incredibly impressive performance from Dart. Now, look, just like the first week, playing like Tim Tebow didn't mean he was going to have a career like Tim Tebow. This week, playing like, whoever, some spectacular, fantastic quarterback, doesn't mean that's going to be the case from now on, right? He didn't go on a 3-week arc of Josh Allen's career, and now he's arrived. Maybe next week will be bad again. Maybe next week will be great. Who knows? But this week against the Eagles, he was great.
There is something to this belief element, and I won't even mention the guy's name again, but there's other quarterbacks who have elicited belief in their teammates and seemingly elevated those around them, Sam.
Yeah.
And there is something to that. So even when you're not playing at your best, when the head coach, joking about Daboll, looking longingly into Jackson Dart's eyes and hugging him, and the articles written about like, oh, he's about to take a shower and Daboll's, hugging his neck. But there is something to that factor. Plus, Daboll's like, man, could have been fired this year. Now this guy's given some hope.
I don't know that I can remember a head coach looking like so desperately besotted with a quarterback before. Like, Daboll is
really quick, but like to the point where if I said, hey, Jackson Dart's going to be in concussion protocol, Daboll's going to dive into the blue tent to make sure that he's okay.
He's so desperate to have Jackson Dart out there that he launches himself into the blue medical tent, which the owner has to come out and say afterwards, like, obviously that's not cool. Like, we're going to cooperate fully with the NFL investigation and make sure that never happens. This has to be independent, blah, blah, blah. Like, one of the least cool things that a head coach can do. And he's like, I am going in there to make sure this kid is okay.
Jackson! No more Russell Wilson snaps. Jackson! Get out here! Get out here!
If you look at Daboll's career, like if you look at his resume, like if Daboll didn't have Josh Allen on his resume, and not specifically the development of Josh Allen, right?
Right.
The time period where Josh Allen went from like all over the place, chaos, madness, albeit with a big arm and incredible physical tools, to MVP level Josh Allen. That happened on Daboll's watch. Now, was that Daboll? Was it whoever? Like, the credit is a little bit amorphous, and nobody knows quite who was responsible for that. But Daboll can at least assume some credit at this point. If you take that away, or if you simply, what's the rest of his resume look like outside of that? There's not that much there. For a guy who's already had, multiple quarterbacks now kind of crap out under his watch, he does need Jackson Dart.
We do a lot of that A/B analysis in football because what else are you going to compare against? And
right.
you have the one good year of Daniel Jones in 2022, but Daniel Jones is an MVP candidate now that he's left.
And even Daniel Jones, so MVP candidate now, and has since sort of said, I didn't know what great quarterbacking looked like until I got to Minnesota and saw that quarterback room operate. Like, he specifically threw shade at the New York Giants quarterback room, albeit indirectly, by saying, man, that Minnesota room really knows how to get things done, right? And he'd just come from Brian Daboll's system before that.
We've got to talk a little bit about the Eagles. They fall to 4-2 here, and 34-17. They were up 17-13, but their offense did the disappearing act. Again, we don't know which half it's going to happen. Sometimes it's the first half. Sometimes it's the second half. In this game, it was the second half. I like to believe that because they ran 4 straight tush pushes to go up 17-13, the offense fell apart after that. I did theorize in our instant reaction.
That's karma?
I'm not saying that directly.
No.
I am saying indirectly, is there something about that slow pace and methodical style that they get into tush-push mode? Does that have an effect on the rest of the offense? Because this has happened multiple times in the Jalen Hurts era. We talked about his inability or unwillingness maybe, or the offense's inability to throw the ball over the middle of the field and just throw outside the numbers deep or short. The passing map looked very similar for Jalen Hurts once again, and there's just too many times things are a tick late. Everything's late in this passing game, waiting for downfield routes to develop and inviting pressure and getting sacked 3 times, and just does not look good. The offense disappeared once again after scoring 17 points. They didn't score again for the majority of the game.
Yeah, it did. I don't think that the tush-push thing has anything to do with it, to be honest. I think it felt like at that point they were trolling the NFL. Like, we're going to run it 4 straight times. I dare you to ban this play.
I think that's just what the situation called for, right? It was
yeah,
it was 3rd and 1, and then they got one. They
Right.
missed it. Then they got the second one. Then they were 2 yards away, so they just put. I don't think they're trolling anybody.
And
I
if
think
you
they're
ban
just picking the best play.
And if you ban the play, I think they'll do the same thing, just with 4 quarterback sneaks. But the point is, their offense has been doing this all season long. It's just that this time they got punished for it. Like every single game almost, I think, this season, they're off, whether it's the first half or the second half. It's had a giant period of time where it just hasn't been functioning. And actually, like the start of this game, I mean, the first drive was multiple back-to-back Saquon Barkley plays, like a 19-yard run, I think was the opening play of the game, which was already his longest of the season. Backed it up. The second play was a first down run as well. 4 straight runs to open the game. Like, Philadelphia's moving. They pull Saquon Barkley off the field. I don't know if they're just randomly spelling him more now. It's a weird way that they're utilizing him, or whether he needed a breather after 2 straight runs or whatever. But anyway, like, you had that. You had a couple of big plays to Dallas Goedert early. He had like 6 catches in the first 20 minutes of the game or something. Things are working. A.J. Brown has a nice pass down the field. And this is the same thing. Like, when things are working, it's like, let's just lean on the athletes that we've got, right? We've got like 4 guys that are really, really high-end playmakers. If we just put the ball in their hands, good things will happen. And the problem is the offense, I don't think, really extends beyond that much. So it's like we have a play drawn up for these guys. And when things function, we'll just sort of throw the ball in their direction or hand the ball off to Saquon. They'll make something happen. But there's not much scheme helping them out. It's just, I mean, the A.J. Brown thing is just a one-on-one ISO route on the outside, and he wasn't open. We just threw the ball in his direction. He must have, dude, right? Like, that's what we do. But if you actually clamp down on the plays they're running, there's no nuance to it. There's no progression. There's no, let's find the third guy, and he's open.
That was what the end of the Aaron Rodgers, Mike McCarthy era with the Packers felt like, where there was no easy buttons, there was no schemed up anything. It was just, hey, Jordy Nelson or whoever the guy was at the time, go win outside one-on-one. Aaron will get you the ball. And it's fine to a point, but I think that's why you get that disappearing act for a while. And this is now 4 coordinators in 4 years for the Eagles, right? Shane Steichen, Brian Johnson, Kellen Moore, Kevin Patullo, and they've had this before. So is it a Jalen Hurts thing? The Jalen Hurts discourse is hilarious, right? It's like before the season, well, they just won the Super Bowl. He's the best quarterback in the NFL.
Right.
Now it's like, this dude's always been garbage. He's a second rounder that's been dragged by the best roster in the NFL. As always, the truth is somewhere in the middle. He's not the best quarterback in the NFL. He's not a trash quarterback who should be benched. I think he's a unique quarterback stylistically with his running ability, with the way he throws the ball down the field, and maybe the inability or unwillingness to throw the ball over the middle. We've seen that from various quarterbacks through the years, so I think the Eagles they got to find something. But it's, 4 straight weeks their offense has been very, very streaky, and they had 3 straight punts and then a pick 6 in this one, which was a bad read by Hurts.
They now have a negative point differential for the season, despite sitting at 4-2 and top of that division.
And it's a big story because we have to cite 2023. I know I say this a lot, but you have to understand the history here because it's important. They were 10-1 in 2023 and the best team in the NFL. Beat all of the best teams in the NFL before they collapsed and were the worst looking playoff team we've ever seen. This is important because that was only 2 years ago. And we had to mention it last year because it was recent history. And last year, it didn't matter, right? They didn't lose after their fourth week or whatever it was. Or they lost one game down the stretch. And they were outstanding, and they had a million different ways to win: pass game, run game, defense, pass rush coverage. They had it all last year. And this year, you're starting to see some inconsistencies, absolutely with the pass game, but with the run game, the defensive injuries, I think, caught up a little bit. They haven't been as dominant as they were early or as they were last year. So a lot more questions, I think, for the Eagles this year versus last year.
Yeah, you have to be aware that that's within the range of outcomes for the Eagles because it's already happened for them, right? Albeit, every team is a different, or every year is a different team. It's not the same thing. But, yeah, the Eagles in recent memory with the same head coach and the same quarterback have completely collapsed from a position where it looked like they were the best team in the NFL or one of the best teams in the NFL and in a great spot. And even that year, you were like, well, they're going to make the playoffs anyway. Even if they collapse the regular season, maybe the playoffs, they'll sort of snap out of it and become – no, they exactly the same thing. They just continued in the playoffs on the same implosion. So it's a big week for them to show they can bounce back from this because this is – Saquon was talking last week about how it was their first real adversity in that, they lost the game. Well, now I would say this is real adversity. You not only have you lost multiple games now, but this looks bad for the first time.
We spent a lot of time in this Thursday night game because I think there's a lot of storylines. By the way, these teams play again in 2 weeks in Philadelphia. So 4-2 Eagles, 2-4 Giants. Let's go to Sunday morning. In London, do you have the history of the recent Broncos-Jets games that you sent me? Broncos 13, Jets 11. Jets remain winless at 0-6. Broncos moved to 4-2. Denver, it was 11-10 into the fourth quarter. Denver with the game-winning field goal or go-ahead field goal with 5 minutes left on a 12-play, 65-yard drive. The story of this game, though, Denver's defense / the Jets' offense. Justin Fields in the box score finished as 9 of 17. For 45 yards. But he also got sacked 9 times for negative 55 yards. So the way the NFL does passing stats, you have the players' passing stats, and then you have the team passing stats, of which the sack total comes off the team number. So the Jets finished with negative 10 net passing yards, but they still scored 11 points.
Yes.
It's a fascinating
That's
game.
That's
the
the worst number since, you know when?
I think it was 08.
No, further.
The negative passing yards?
Yep.
I thought it was the
10 negative
Chargers.
passing
98.
yards. Yes.
Chargers in 98.
Ryan Leaf. It's the worst total since Ryan Leaf's third game in the NFL.
Good for Ryan.
The last 3 games of the Jets versus the Broncos, 16-9, 10-9, and then 13-11.
Beautiful. It's a beautiful thing. This was ugly. We know Denver's defense is good. We also know Justin Fields. What's that stat about his completions and
It's the
sacks?
third game of his career where he's had at least the same number of sacks as completions in a single game.
It's bad football.
It is. And it's why I think you have to say, we know that Denver has arguably the best pass rush in the NFL. It's why you need to say it's not just that, right? Okay, if it was a random quarterback who doesn't have that history, you could say, yeah, sure, the pass rush was just too much. But it's not. It's Justin Fields who held the ball for, the same standard 3 seconds of play that he always holds the ball for and has had multiple games in his career already that look like this. And there were a bunch of sacks that he didn't need to take in this game. It's not just the pass rush. It's also him.
Yeah, it's always more than one thing. If you get sacked 9 times, there's some in there where it's it's 3rd and 6. You have a guy open in the flat. You're staring at him.
Yeah.
It might not pick up the first down. He's going to have to catch it and break a tackle, but it's better than a negative 8-yard sack, right? Throw the ball. There's other plays. There's the Nick Bonito play. It seems once a week, it's like he's in the huddle, knows the snap count, and the poor left tackle gets the stat Olu Fashanu, you gave up the sack. Bonito's just by him. No left tackle. Trent Williams probably isn't going to block him when he gets that type of jump. And
those
Benito's,
2 edge rushers they have time the snap better than anybody else in the NFL.
They are unbelievable.
Which makes you wonder why teams aren't using a dummy count more against the Broncos than they are at the moment.
I'll be interested when they do. They have to play the Chiefs twice, and Kansas City, Mahomes is good with the snap count, and they're very good at keeping the edge right. When they go up against good edge rushers, they're good at keeping them on a string and screening them and using misdirection. I'll be interested in that matchup, which we'll talk about in a few weeks here. But Benito had a sack like that where you just had no chance. And then there's other ones where you're like, all right, get rid of the ball, man. Got to get rid of the ball.
Yeah.
Holding it too long. So that was ugly from a Jets perspective and impressive from a Broncos perspective. But the Jets hung tough. They're sitting there winning 11-10 with 5 minutes left in the fourth quarter. And then, you unleash you old faithful, Marvin Mims out of the backfield. You put Marvin Mims in the backfield for a 26-yard gain to help set up the game winning.
That was the crazy thing about this game is the Jets' offense was absolutely wretched. They were going nowhere. They were doing the New York media market has already been after Aaron Glenn's hide for the last couple of weeks. This was the first game where I think there's like real ammunition there to work with. I mean, multiple things in this game that I think are absolutely maybe not inexcusable, but certainly things that he has to answer for. The thing just before halftime is the most obvious one, but like early in the game, they ended up being saved. Aaron Glenn got saved from burning a challenge on a 6-yard catch on first down, where they ended up looking at it anyway and being like, yeah, you know what, that was incomplete. He was all set to challenge that. Yeah. Like, dude, this is a nothing play in the middle of the first quarter. What are you doing? Like, it doesn't matter if it calls incomplete or not.
Every year we say this with new head coaches. You just don't know what you're going to get. You don't know what's going to happen the first time they challenge when they're not supposed to. You don't know what's going to happen the first time they have an end of half or end of game situation and they look completely unprepared. So people ask us all the time, who do you like as a coach? And this, and like when it's a first time coach,
right?
And it's interesting in the NFL, you get some retread coaches, but the usual trend in the NFL is hot coordinator. Like, did you call good plays on one side of the ball? Yes, great. You're going to be a head coach someday, and so you have no idea how they're going to handle the game management aspect of things. And then, of course, you have just before the half, they're in Hail Mary range, and they're just like, take it to the locker room.
Well, yeah, so that sequence was crazy. They were, number one, at that point, at the 2-minute warning in the first half, the Jets had 13 yards of offense, right? And they were only 10-6 down and had the ball, right? Like somehow the Jets could come out of this first half in the lead of this game. On that drive, they go for it on the first fourth down they get, and you're like, okay, they're trying to score. They're trying to at least go in down one, maybe take the lead. And then they just they go for the fourth down, get it, and continue the drive. And then the next one rocks up. They're at where were they? Midfield somewhere. And then just let the clock run down. They're just like, no, we're good. Going for it in this situation would be far too risky. We couldn't possibly, gamble with that. We're just going to let the clock expire and everybody go to halftime. And the announcers couldn't believe what was happening. Garrett Wilson couldn't believe what was happening. He ends up screaming at Aaron Glenn going into the locker room. They interviewed him afterwards. I'm paraphrasing, but he was basically saying, yeah, I was really mad when I didn't know what was happening. And then when I found out what was happening, I was just really disappointed. Because what was happening is they were like, you know what? 10-6 is good, right? For us right now, 10-6 is a good result. Let's not look a gift horse in the mouth and let's take that into the locker room. You're like, that's crazy approach in this game.
I hate that completely. I get the pregame. If you said on Thursday you're talking about the game, like, hey, if we're within a score at half, well,
even if
we're all right, and we'll strike in the second half. Doesn't mean you sit there and like, hey, we talked about this when we game planned. We're happy with this. It's like, no, you just throw the Hail Mary.
Even in the situation that I just outlined, you have 13 yards at the 2-minute warning and you're down like 10-6. You're like, well, that's outstanding, right? Somehow.
Exactly what
right. But you're like, yeah, but then you can take a shot for nothing. Like, you might, okay, a Hail Mary's a pretty unlikely play, but like, why not give it a crack? What's the worst that could happen is they could house it and you end up looking stupid.
It's part of a
that's
bigger,
also pretty unlikely.
It probably doesn't change the game. But it is part of a bigger issue. And the New York market, everything is like, if the Titans were in the New York market, could you imagine?
Callahan would already be fired.
There's one guy in Tennessee that, attacks the head coach and is like, hey, man, you said this and you're not backing it. There's like one media member. Multiply that by 20 in New York.
Everybody in the Giants media room is Paul Kuharsky.
So it's like, yes, Paul. Love you, Paul. We have an 0-6 Jets team, and all you want to see is, like, you don't have anything. They're already calling him Rich Kotite, They're already calling him. They're already making code tight calls. Some people are.
But this is how you're like, why are the Jets, which talent-wise should be a sort of feisty, difficult to beat team, why do they keep losing every week? Well, it's stuff like this. Like, they're not trying to win. Literally not trying to win. That was a thing of there is minimum. Like, there was plenty of time left on the clock. I forget how much, but there was plenty of time to operate, right? Like, a really ballsy move would have been, we're going to go for this 4th down too, convert it, and then actually, work with the next series and try and win try and put up points and, work with the time on the clock. Okay, I'm all right saying, you know what? Justin Fields, our quarterback, he's not playing well. The offense has barely moved the ball in the first half. That's super risky. And if we don't get it, they have time and they can score. Fine, right? I am just about okay with that level of conservatism and saying, you know what? That's too much to go. But then take the shot at the Hail Mary. Like, at the very minimum, let's run down the clock, put 2 seconds left on the clock, and then take a shot into the end zone. Because then the only thing you're risking is the absurdly unlikely chance that they not only intercept the Hail Mary, but somehow return it the length of the field.
I could hear the argument that, we're a little worried about this pass rush and Justin Fields getting strip sacked. I could hear that argument, but that is playing not to lose.
And if
that is the whole, we're playing not to lose instead of playing to win.
But also, if you're running a Hail Mary, they're not going to be rushing, 6 at you. They're probably not even going to be rushing 4 at you. And Justin Fields is also a freaky athlete. If you don't think that Justin Fields can evade a 3-man rush for a couple of seconds and heave the ball downfield, then what is the point in Justin Fields? If that is your concern, I don't think that he can actually hold the ball for 3.5 seconds in order to launch a Hail Mary. Then he shouldn't be out on the field. Then you should have Tyrod Taylor on as a quarterback because he's more likely to operate in this circumstance.
Just from a Denver perspective, again, their defense, it's fierce. When you sack a quarterback 9 times, you often look to the pass rush. You're like, well, it's all the pass rush. But Denver did a nice job on the back end, taking options away. Also, Fields held the ball a little bit too long. We know all that. But Denver remains one of the best combinations of, meshing the pass rush and coverage. How many, 7 different players had sacks? Yeah. That is just a very Vance Joseph Denver Broncos.
8 if you include half sacks.
If you include it, so 8 different people
sacks
tackling the quarterback. Yes, that's including Hufanga from safety,
right?
And, linebackers getting in there and everything. So impressive defensive effort from the Broncos. Evan Ingram did a nice job offensively. Had 4 out of their 9 first downs at tight end, and I think he's been a nice addition. The Broncos have some pieces on offense. Yeah. It was just an inconsistent game. They had an early turnover fumble from Troy Franklin.
Damn it, Troy!
I know, killing us.
They also had the classic. So we've been talking about this. The overthrow from Bo Nix that seems to pop up every week, right? Where it's like, dude, if that guy could just connect on some of these deep shots, there's some serious plays to be had. I was watching Brandon Perna, friend of the show. That's Good Sports is his YouTube channel. I'm sure you're aware of it. I was watching his live stream during the game.
Up-and-coming YouTuber,
right? Yeah,
that we're trying to help out.
An up-and-comer with whatever he is, 800,000 subscribers. He has a name for these. He calls them Boverthrows.
Boverthrows.
Yeah, huh? This was the weekly Boverthrow.
And he's a Bo-lever.
Indeed. To Marvin Mims. It usually is Mims or Troy Franklin. But the classic early game Boverthrow where he could have had an absolute bomb. Missed it.
As a Bo-lever, does he treat it the same way John Madden used to treat Brett Favre overthrows? He's like, that Brett, he just loves football so much, he's just going to have a couple overthrows. A little too fired up early in the game.
No, I think he's aware that they're just bad plays.
Oh, okay. So he's not explaining them away?
No.
Go follow Perna.
Yeah.
He needs a little uptick.
He needs the help from our channel.
Followers. He should give us a shout out again. So his chair broke on the tell the story quick. We got all day.
Yeah, I was watching his stream, and the back of his chair fell apart. The back of the chair just came off in his hand as he was adjusting it or whatever. Goes
relatable.
Like this, and then the back just falls off.
Very relatable. All right, I got no more use for this game. Denver moves to 4-2. Tied. Kind of. Chargers have the tiebreaker. 4-2 in the AFC West. Chiefs on their heels. Let's go Seattle Seahawks 20. Jacksonville Jaguars 12. Another couple 4-2 teams. Seahawks get the win here. Jags. Tough loss for them coming off the exciting Monday night win at home. More defense, bad pass protection. Jags sacked 7 times. Trevor Lawrence sacked 7 times, including, if you look at say the first run results from various sources for us from True Media, it was Walker Little assigned with 4 sacks allowed in this one. There's multiple tackles later we'll talk about that had 3 allowed. So a rough game for the pass protection for the Jaguars. And, early in the season, my optimism for the Seahawks was centered around a game like this where I thought their defensive front could be dominant up front, and they were in this one.
And I can't believe you've gone this far into the discussion without mentioning DeMarcus Lawrence with multiple sacks.
2 sacks.
Yeah.
No, I've got the whole list of sacks and what happened here.
Yeah.
We got a clean pocket. Trevor Lawrence gets tracked down by Byron Murphy. Again, it's like this is a big story in the game because I already had people, they were trying to get ahead of things because we already know you are a known, maybe me too, Trevor Lawrence hater because we haven't said only nice things about Trevor in these first few weeks. We've said, look, I think there's been some inconsistencies and some struggles from Lawrence. So somebody gave me a heads up like, hey, he was pressured over 50% of the time. Just make sure you tell Sam. So I'm telling you, before you trash Trevor Lawrence. So I went back, watched all the sacks, what happened. We had a clean pocket. Things were well covered. I think the coverage, pass rush, unity from Seattle was very good on that play. Byron Murphy tracked him down for the sack. Another one, first reads covered. Leonard Williams beats a chip and Walker Little for a sack. Then you have Leonard Williams and DeMarcus Lawrence, the couple vets there, man, working games together. Jags did not handle stunts and twists very well in this game. DeMarcus Lawrence came free on that one. Another one, the guards collapsed, and Lawrence stepped up for a 0-yard sack. Those are always the quirky ones. Is it a no gain? Is it 0 yards? Whatever. You have Byron Murphy crushing Walker Little on a stunt for another sack. You have Drake Thomas, the linebacker, comes and just bulldozes Walker Little on a blitz for a sack. And then there's another stunt where Walker Little and Ezra Cleveland did not pick it up well. So a couple of the early ones were like, hey, Seattle's coverage did a really nice job. Or Lawrence held the ball too long. But the last 4 or 5, the O-line got destroyed. And that's how you get sacked 7 times.
The number of offensive lines that just cannot handle stunts is kind of amazing. I've wondered this for years. Like, stunts are statistically significantly more effective than not stunting, right? Generally. And have been for like a decade, at least. This is just when I started paying attention to it, let alone how far back that information goes. So I've always kind of wondered, like, why is there not a team somewhere pushing that to the extreme and seeing, like, let's just stunt every play. Let's just see how extreme we can make this, how much more effective. This year, I think Green Bay is at like 80% or something.
They're really high. And when we were talking about that, so when we first started tracking
But back when I was tracking that, there was no team above like 35% or something insane.
Dan Quinn's Cowboys, I think they did. So maybe Micah Parsons just brings it with him.
Maybe he just does it on his own.
When the Cowboys had those years where they had high pressure, high turnover rates, they were really high in stunts and twists. And and we do our previews all the time. We're like, watch Micah Parsons against this right tackle. And the reality is there's only going to be like 8 or 10 one-on-one matchups because of all the stunts and twists and everything. But, it's difficult. We talk to offensive linemen a lot. And that's why a lot of the times we've talked to a lot of tackles who are like, I like to play with this guard because we communicate well.
Yeah.
And you have to not only communicate the pass off, but the depth at which they play. And there was, if you don't have a guard that likes to play the same style as you and they don't get as deep as you, and it's tough to pass them off. But there's a lot of offensive lines.
I also think it's fundamentally more difficult. I mean, the classic old school Justin Smith, Alden Smith combination, like, because whatever about how hard it is to just block the impressive, defensive end or pass rusher that's lined up opposite you, and like, okay, physically this is going to be a struggle just to get to the right spot and deal with this guy. At least you're focusing on him, right, pre-snap. For the stunt, you have to block a guy equally as good, if not better, but you're not aware that it's happening yet, right? Like, by definition, it takes you a tick to realize, what I thought was happening is not happening. Actually, the thing is coming from here, and completely adjust everything you're about to do in order to try and stop, Justin Smith in this situation. Like, of course it's harder. And that's before you get to the idea of like, is the guy inside of me, at the correct depth in order to pass this off and blah, blah, blah. Like, I've just always been amazed that it's not more prevalent on pass rushes. But teams like Seattle in this game were deploying it, and it's it's almost impossible for these offensive lines to cope with.
So I thought Seattle did a great job rushing the passer. They deserve credit. I thought the Jags O-line did a poor job picking it up. Other stuff that happened in this game, I mean, it was low scoring early on. Then you have Sam Darnold, another downfield absolute dot, big time throw even. 61-yard touchdown to Jackson Smith-Njigba, who continues to just look incredible. There was a point where Darnold's first 5 completions went for like $112, and they were all to JSN.
Just cooking all through the game.
He goes for 8 for 162. And then I thought Darnold's second touchdown, man, so they got up 2 scores, and another one, just far hash, deep out to the slot to Cooper Kupp, just puts it right on his hands. It was an 11-yard touchdown in the box score, but it's one of those, Pythagoras would be like, no, that's a lot longer throw, Pythagoras is like, no, that's like 28 yards right on his hands. A great throw by Sam Darnold, who continues to play well, man. And they've got this formula down, right? They don't want Sam Darnold dropping back 45 times. They, 16 of 27, but for 295 because they had those big plays. They have the A.J. Barner one later for 61, which pretty much all but sealed the deal.
Yeah.
But the Jags got back into it. It was 20-6. They score a touchdown. They do the whole down 14, go for 2, and didn't get it. So they're still down 8 and within reach, but Seattle holds on.
Yeah, I think that was the disappointing aspect of this from a Jacksonville perspective is, okay, they got down, they got in a hole, but they then shot themselves in the foot multiple times on the way back from trying to dig their way out of that hole. You had the offside touchdown negating mistake by Travis Hunter where he lines up offside by 6 inches or whatever it is. His foot is in the neutral zone. His foot is lined up with the football, and that's offside, which negated a Brian Thomas Jr. touchdown. Now you can say, look, that's a ball don't lie type of deal where it was probably shouldn't have been a touchdown. Like it was a freaky play that had to bounce into his hands.
The BTJ earned it, and the Seahawks almost blew it.
Yeah. But it's one of those ones where it's like, it was a freaky play in the first place. And so, and whatever. The point is, it was a Brian Thomas Jr. touchdown that ends up getting taken off the board by a ridiculous procedural penalty, those are annoying. I don't think anybody likes those plays. This one, the Lions play we'll get to in a few hours, where that's another procedural one. It's like, who gives a crap? Just let it stand. So you had that. Brian Thomas Jr. has a bad drop on 3rd down deep in Jacksonville's territory. It was a drive-killing play. They got to punt the ball away at that point. Like, just rough plays where they had more opportunities than this, and they didn't take advantage of them.
I have to say, we are in a golden age of big plays being negated by illegal formation, illegal shift, illegal motion, and offensive offsides.
That's
a
what
golden
everyone
age.
Wants to see.
I haven't fact-checked this yet, but I believe that we've set an NFL record for most yards and or touchdowns negated by some sort of illegal offensive formation or shift or motion or something.
Is Brian Thomas Jr. reaching the level where he just generally doesn't want contact anymore? There was a play here that was high over the middle again, and it was one of those ones where you sort of waved at it, It's like, didn't even – and look, I've gone up for this pass, and it was one of the few definite concussions that I've taken in my playing career, where it was like a slant over the middle and it was thrown high, and I made the mistake of going up to get the pass and basically landed in the shoulder of actually one of the rare American players in the league at that time. And generally speaking, the American players were better, stronger, faster, and hit harder than everybody else.
As we do.
So they had this, I don't even remember what the team was, but whoever it was had a roving Cam Chancellor strong safety who was American. And I went over the middle, slants high, I went up to get it, got hands on it, landed basically into this guy's kill shot, and definitely got concussed in that play. Brian Thomas Jr. saw the same pass yesterday, and instead of going up to get it, I would argue relatively smartly, just sort of waved a hand at it and was like, yeah, that's too high for me. I'm not interested in that. Has he? There's a few of those in the last few weeks. Has he reached the stage now where I don't know if it's. Maybe. I don't think he's always been like that. But has he just seen so many of those passes now that he's like, you know what, I'm not even going for those anymore?
Everything about his game's different from last year. So he still had 8 catches for 90 yards. Yeah. There was a busted coverage wide open for the first Jags touchdown that he caught.
And also, as we just said, should have had more. Well, could have had more for that touchtown.
Right,
he got taken off the board.
Had the long touchdown that got negated. Had another drop in there. Just far more inconsistency to the connection between Trevor Lawrence and Brian Thomas Jr.
And look, nobody is now more invested in Brian Thomas Jr. than me, because if he ends up sucking again, then I've got to flip-flop twice in 2 years. I don't want to do that. I'm happy with the idea that I thought he was terrible. Not terrible. Thought he was unremarkable coming into the NFL, but was incredibly impressed with him as a rookie, to the point where I thought he might be the best wide receiver of that draft class. If he then goes back to being entirely unremarkable, that will be unpleasant.
If you just flip their seasons
every year.
If you flip their seasons, it makes more sense, right? If you have this inconsistency and some more drops.
But I've noticed a few of those plays now in the last few weeks where he's just, it's not even alligator arming it. Like he's not even getting that far. He's just like, that's a little too far out of my reach. Nah.
I just want to shout out again, Sam Darnold, man, playing high-end football right now. Pinpoint down the field. We rattled off all of the stats coming into the week during the preview show. Number 1 at PFF, number 1 in EPA per play, 73% of completions beyond 20 yards. Crazy numbers.
And an average depth of target in this game, over 13.
That's right. I'm telling you, this is the old school Kubiak. They didn't get the run game going at all as far as yardage goes, but they did in volume. And it still opens things up for we're play action taking shots down the field. That's where you have two 61-yarders in this game, JSN and Barner. Cooper Kupp had a long of 29. They're getting the ball down the field. Deep crossers, deep posts. They're creating those big play opportunities, and Darnold's hitting all of them.
Yeah, pretty much.
Been great. And this was the Seattle pass rush that I expected for much of the season. They've shown elements of it, but the depth that they have on their defensive line, their ability to affect the quarterback. And the other guy I wanted to shout out, Nick Emanwari, their rookie safety, came back last week after injury, career-high 70 snaps, flying around the football. They had him playing box safety, a little nickel dime linebacker type, in and around the line of scrimmage, flying around in the run game, blitzing, just making a ton of plays. Weren't all good plays. Whiffed on Travis Hunter on a tackle attempt, but he brings a little energy to that defense, and really like what he brought. He was a fringe first rounder. They traded up to get him early in the second, and he looked good.
And it feels like half the NFL, this is the story, but the Seahawks defense has been pretty banged up, and they're starting to get healthy now. They're getting players back. They haven't got them all back yet, but they're getting them. That's a team that's starting to get healthy on that side of the ball, and the ceiling for that group, I think, is really, really high. And maybe this was the first game where we started to see it.
And the West is getting interesting. We'll talk about the Rams after the break here in a minute. But 3 4-2 teams now.
Yeah.
The Niners losing all of their stars, and then you've got Seattle probably getting healthier, and then the Rams, who we'll talk about them in a second here. But FanDuel is getting you ready for the NFL season with an offer you don't want to miss. New customers can bet just $5 and get $300 in bonus bets if you win. That's right. You pick a bet. You bet $5. If it wins, you'll unlock $300 in bonus bets to use all across the app. You can build parlays, bet player props, ride the live lines. Whatever your style, FanDuel has you covered. The NFL season is here. The only question is, are you ready to play? You go visit FanDuel.com/CTM to download the FanDuel app today and get started. That's FanDuel.com/CTM. Must be 21 plus and present in select states. For Kansas in affiliation with Kansas Star Casino, or 18 plus and present in D.C., Kentucky, or Wyoming. First online real money wager only. $5 first deposit required. Bonus issued as non-withdrawable bonus bets, which expire 7 days after receipt. Restrictions apply. See terms at sportsbook.fanduel.com. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER or visit fanduel.com/RG. Call 1-888-789-7777 or visit ccpg.org/chat in Connecticut or visit mdgamblinghelp.org in Maryland. Hope is here. Visit gamblinghelplinema.org or call 800-327-5050 for 24/7 support in Massachusetts, or call 1-877-8-HOPE-NY or text HOPE-NY in New York. Wow. Rams-Ravens. Rams get the win 17-3. It was 3-3 at the half. And then the Rams scored 2 touchdowns within the first 5-6 minutes in the second half. Those are the only touchdowns in this game. Never really felt close, though.
No.
Right? So the Rams always seem... The Rams are the weirdest team where, we're trying to watch 7-8 games at a time. Sometimes yesterday was 7. And every time I look up, I'm like, Puka Nakua's open, Matthew Stafford's making a great throw, Kyron Williams making a nice run. They're moving the ball, and then I look up and they only scored 17. Mm-hmm. Why is that?
Right.
The Rams, because Stafford coming into the game was averaging almost 300 yards a game, or right around 300 yards a game. Puka's on pace to set this reception rate, 200 receptions or whatever it is. It feels, and I know the defense is good. It feels good for the Rams, and they're just kind of playing closer games than I would even expect. All the way back to week 1 where it felt like they were dominating the Texans and only won by a score. But anyway, the Rams are 4-2, took care of business here against the Cooper Rush-led Ravens.
Yeah, I mean, if you're looking – so the only optimistic thing for the Ravens is they actually held the Rams to a relatively low scoring output. You know, the defense has been absolutely abysmal. Didn't do terribly this week against a Rams team that is at least capable of high-octane explosiveness, like serious production on offense. Now – was that all the Ravens or was that some Rams, right? Like early in the game, Stafford twice missed Devontae Adams in the red zone, and then they doinked the chip shot field goal off the upright, and you're like, well, that's 7 points that should have been and end up being 0 points, right? So some of it was that the Rams just didn't execute when the plays were there to be made, but Baltimore's defense did hang tougher than it's been for a lot of this game.
And that's been part of the Rams
season.
The Rams have had, I'm not saying they've had terrible red zone woes, but they've had some games where they moved it really well in between the 20s. That's why the perception that I was just talking about. But they missed opportunities. Titans game comes to mind. They missed opportunities in the red zone and made it a little bit closer than it needed to be. Also in games like just today's NFL, fourth down variance is a huge factor. You have the Ravens going in before the half, 4th and goal. Derrick Henry gets stopped just before the half. That's a huge game changer.
Yep.
But the Rams also had that, right? They moved the ball. They get stopped on 4th down. And it gave the Ravens at least some life. Like they stayed in it a lot longer maybe than I even expected.
Yeah, and again, some of that was defensive plays. Like Cooper Rush has an awful turnover, and then almost immediately John Jenkins just like pushes the pocket and then basically just takes the ball away from Matthew Stafford as he gets close enough. And recovers it. So individual John Jenkins, like all 360 pounds of him, whatever he's listed as, just runs right through an offensive lineman and strips the ball back. And like rarely do you see an individual play, or certainly rarely do you see it from a big giant nose tackle. It's usually an edge rusher making this play, but just single-handedly, individually, like turns the ball over, changes possession, negates a Cooper Rush error that is going to happen in most games. Like, incredibly impressive defensive play.
I'd like to take a minute to honor John Jenkins for that play.
Okay.
In a world where we grew up watching, I always reference Ted Washington as the nose tackle that lasted probably an extra 10 years
just
in the league.
900 pounds.
You always reference Grady Jackson, right?
Yeah.
These guys that came into the league listed at 320, and by the end of their career, we know they're pushing 370, 380. We know they are. Mm-hmm. And that's it's John Jenkins.
The most recent one would be Linval Joseph. God knows what he was weighing by the end, but it was a lot more than whatever he was listed.
John Jenkins came into the league, 2013, 3rd-round pick, and he's still lurking around here. Still listed at 6'3", 327, Sam.
Not on the Ravens roster.
Okay.
But the Ravens roster lists him at 360.
So, all right. So, kudos to the Ravens. Kudos to the Ravens. Because most people, they just have their list weight.
Oh, the NFL can list him whatever they like, but the Ravens are well aware that he weighs 40 pounds more than he weighed when he came into the league.
John Jenkins still cranking out 600 snaps a season at 360 pounds for his, 6th different team. And nobody knows about John Jenkins until he's got a strip sack of Matthew Stafford. Look at John Jenkins still being in the league.
Yeah.
So kudos.
Still being in the league.
Kudos to Jenkins as the new age. It's the funniest thing about draft classes. You just never know which guy's going to last 4 years and which guy's going to be there over a decade. He's here over a decade.
Yeah.
Still making plays.
I mean, there's some amazing dynamics when it comes to bottom of the roster depth players that just hang around forever, even though you'd never want them really playing.
It's with his 8th team.
I'm not saying he's that. I'm just saying there are guys that hang around. Like Neville Gallimore was making plays yesterday. How is that guy suddenly?
He's in year 5.
Important rotation. Yeah, but
6.
But there's players that clearly, they get a shot, they bomb out, and then just hang around for a decade. So Byron Coward, I think, is still getting snaps for somebody.
But John Jenkins, class of 2013.
Making plays.
One of the worst draft classes of all time. And he's still surviving. He's still out there, right? You don't see Luke Jokel. Luke Jokel is the number 2 overall pick. He's been out of the league for a decade himself. Kudos, John Jenkins.
Not a great pick.
Somebody needed a shout-out in this 17-3 game for the Ravens.
So, anyway, you had...
What does this mean now?
John Jenkins?
No.
Well, the most important thing that happened in this game is Puka Nacua got hurt. Breaking up an interception, by the way. Another, Rams miscue. Marlon Humphrey is intercepting that ball if Puka Nacua doesn't break it up in the end zone. Somehow, in the process of doing that, he hurts himself. I believe, is it a toe or a foot or an ankle or whatever the hell it was?
I believe it's an ankle.
I think they called it a foot injury at the time, and then, it's an ankle injury ultimately. I believe David Shaw has basically said he's probably missing next week immediately, even though he came back from in the game and tried to give it a go, and I think did for a while before.
Didn't sound too serious.
No, it's not like a long-term thing, but it's something that might keep him out next week. So that, the Rams, the most costly thing from this game is that the guy that's on pace for like 1 million catches is probably going to miss a little bit of time.
And then I think let's just spend a minute on what it means here. We mentioned on the preview show, look, the Ravens are heading into a bye next week. They're going to get Lamar Jackson back from his hamstring injury after the bye.
Which will fix a lot. Like a lot.
I mean, they wouldn't. This slate, if you had Lamar Jackson going up against the Rams, or if you had Joe Burrow, no offense to Joe Flacco, who hung tough, but if you had Joe Burrow going up against the Packers, it would look better.
I mean, they could have won. Like, they had multiple, like, Zay Flowers put the ball on the ground twice,
right.
Having never done that before in his career. Like, this was his. Now, he doesn't get credit for the second fumble because it's one of those stupid, it's a Jets
QB
handoff. Right.
QB
so it goes,
aborted fumble.
Cooper Rush gets the fumble, even though Zay Flowers dropped the ball. But the first one was his first fumble of his career.
Yeah.
Right. And it was at the end of making a crazy Zay Flowers type play where he jukes 5 different people, is going on a big run, getting yards after the catch, and then puts the ball on the ground. Like, the Ravens had opportunities in this game to at least make it a lot closer than it was, and then we're putting the ball on the ground twice, or Derrick Henry's getting stopped, in 4th and goal and stuff. So imagine Lamar Jackson being out there instead of Cooper Rush.
So, yeah, obviously that would have changed things. But the Ravens, but we mentioned on the preview show, you kept saying, hey, there's still the betting favorites in the AFC North, despite being 1-4. And I said, look, if they could sneak a win against the Rams, get to 2-4, but they're not. They're 1-5. They're heading into the bye. The Steelers are 4-1, and the Steelers are playing Joe Flacco's Bengals. I mean, the Steelers are set up not to run away with the division, but to just put too much distance. But as you said, I think you tweeted out yesterday, the odds have at least changed in Pittsburgh's favor now.
Yeah, the stats pointing out that Zay Flowers has at least a fumble in a playoff game, so it must have been a regular season only stat that.
He fumbled against the Chiefs.
Yeah, that was his first regular season fumble. Apparently, I'm not entirely sure why the NFL does that, where it's like here's most regular season only stat.
Most sports do that,
right? But it's kind of dumb when you're saying things like that.
He's never fumbled.
Yeah, except those playoff games.
Yeah, that is one of those, like, I wouldn't add yards and say this guy threw for 6,500 yards, including the playoffs. I wouldn't do that. But if you're talking about this guy never did something, but he did it in the playoffs, right, maybe you should.
Yes, for the first time, the Steelers are favored to win the AFC North. It is, however, still extremely narrow favorites. So despite the fact that they are 4-1 and the Ravens are 1-5, the Vegas odds, in this case FanDuel odds, our sponsor, still think it's a really close thing. In large part, I think, because they play twice. So a large part of that is basically saying they think that Baltimore sweeps Pittsburgh this year. And if that happens, it's suddenly immediately a lot closer than you think it is. But it is still wild that, like, I think in the last 3 weeks, the division is 2-9 and the 2 wins are Pittsburgh.
Yeah.
Everybody else has lost in the last 3 weeks, every game except Pittsburgh.
Sounds right, man. It is. It's going to be interesting with Lamar coming back, because even when he was out there, he had good efficiency numbers, but he has a sack rate of like 13%, which is insanely high.
And they were losing.
Losing, and the defense was awful even when everybody was healthy. So you're right. It's going to look different and more competitive.
Right.
But you're going to need a superhuman offensive effort between Lamar Jackson, Derrick Henry, and that side of the ball right now.
And remember, he was not playing well individually before he got hurt. Like, part of the problem is that Lamar Jackson, the first game against Detroit, he wasn't seeing things right. The second game, same thing. Like, he was not in a good headspace to begin with. So that Lamar Jackson coming back and fixing everything kind of assumes you're getting Lamar Jackson back at MVP caliber level, not the guy that was playing when he got hurt and left, right? Because that guy is not fixing it 100%. It's funny, like, I tweeted out those odds, because it's objectively funny that a team that's 4-1 is only marginal favorite to win the division over a team that's 1-5.
It is.
I tweeted that out, and there's like a giant section of Pittsburgh that thinks we just hate the Steelers permanently because we've never said that TJ Watt is by far the best player in football. So there were a couple of guys that were like, Steelers bias is coming out again. It's like, I
just reporting the facts here.
Change those two teams to anybody, I would say the same thing. Like, it's just funny that Vegas thinks the team that's 1-5 has basically the same chance of winning the division as the team that's 4-1. I don't care that it's Pittsburgh and Baltimore. If you put any two teams in that dynamic, I would think it's equally funny.
Of course it is. 4-1 versus 1-5.
Right. And it's more to the point, it's not my opinion. It's Vegas that thinks this.
Right.
I don't care one way or the other.
They're putting the odds
Vegas
on it.
has not much faith in the Pittsburgh Steelers.
So anyway, that's what Baltimore's 1-5. They hit into their bye, as we said, and we'll see Lamar Jackson, presumably, and Roquan Smith coming back after Week 8. We'll see about some of their other players.
I used to literally keep track of this in the PFF offices, but we should, on this chalkboard over here, I used to keep track every single season of like fan bases that I've pissed off through just general analysis.
Steelers in perpetuity.
One year was
Bucks and Jags.
One year I remember specifically, it was the Chicago Bears. It was the Mitchell Trubisky Chicago
2018 Bears,
where they like won a few games and everyone was like, Trubisky's the truth, and we were like, he's kind of crappy.
As much as
and Bears fans hated it.
And we liked Trubisky coming out. Would have
like,
loved for him to play well.
Trust us, nobody would like for Mitchell Trubisky to be good more than us. He, however, is not. So we should bring it back, right? Keep track of the fan bases that we pissed off.
I'd say it's different because we're a fan-friendly show. We're trying to attract.
Oh, we'll still piss them off, though.
We're trying to attract fan bases.
I'm not saying we should attempt to do it, right? I'm just saying in the course of a season, we will anger fan bases through simple analysis.
I'm sure get angry just by you making a pick.
Yeah,
on the opposite.
That's what I'm saying. So, I'm sure there was a whole section of Giants fans that were up in arms that we even dared to mention Tim Tebow in the same conversation as Jackson Dart. That's the type of thing we could put it up on the board. Like Week 5, Jackson Dart.
Did we get
or Week 5, New York Giants fans for Tim Tebow references?
I would just like to officially apologize again. I'll do this every few weeks to all fan bases.
Serio says how we should have days between pissing off Steelers fans. 0.
It's always consistently.
That's how
I do weekly Steelers radio, so they ask me some hard-hitting questions where I piss off the fan base every week.
That's how we should record.
But I just want to apologize
to
your team, for sleeping on them. I slept on your team this offseason. Didn't give enough credit. I did the cardinal sin of picking against them in games. That's being a hater.
Every week.
And they proved me wrong.
Okay.
So, apologies to your team.
Specifically.
Derrick
Henry got going again in this game, other than being stopped in 4th and goal.
Yeah, other than that. Yeah, they scored 3 points.
So, other than the fact that they scored 3 points and lost the game, there were encouraging things for Baltimore here. Derrick Henry got going again. The defense was less terrible than it's been in previous times. And if Lamar Jackson comes back 100% or looking like MVP Lamar Jackson, you can still see a world where the Ravens have a shot this season. I genuinely, as much as a 17-3 loss and a 1-5 record, these are bad things. But I do think there's reasons those odds are what they are, right? And only half of it is a lack of faith in the Pittsburgh Steelers from Vegas. Not me, from Vegas. The other half is some degree of faith that Baltimore can still pull themselves out of this tailspin.
Yeah, just don't write them off completely. They also had a ridiculously difficult schedule.
Yes, which gets easier.
Also, shout out to Sean Dolak, who made had his first defensive snaps. Linebacker for the Rams, undrafted, draft community favorite coming out of Buffalo, because Buffalo is the Bulls. They're a linebacker factory. They have Buffalo Joe playing for the Bills. Buffalo Joe. And Sean Dolak. Just keep an eye.
Buffalo Joe's not a good nickname.
Well, that's what they call him.
Buffalo Bill.
Joe Andreessen.
Joe doesn't work.
Joe Andreessen.
Yeah.
And Sean Dolak. A couple ballers out of Buffalo, the MAC school. All right, I've got no more use for this game. Where are we going next? The Carolina Panthers. Moving to 3-3 with their win over the Dallas Cowboys. Sorry about your survivor pick here. 30-27, Panthers get the win. Cowboys fall to 2-3-1. A fun back-and-forth game again for these Carolina Panthers, 1 week after doing that with the Dolphins.
Now, full disclosure, my analysis of this game will be tainted by the fact that 5 minutes into the 1 p.m. slate, I pulled up my sleeper app on the phone to actually check that I was going to check which way I'd picked the Arizona-Indianapolis game, right? Because I discovered Kyler Murray wasn't playing. I was like, oh, I wonder which way I went with that game, because my opinion of it has changed, seeing that it's now Jacoby Brissett at quarterback. Now, turns out that didn't matter. But anyway, that's what I pulled it up to check. And it was still logged into the Survivor, one of the leagues. So the first thing that my eyes were met with, pick this week, Dallas Cowboys. I'm like, what? I picked the Patriots, and I thought I was taking a risk at doing that, because I remember saying it on the show. Like, I'm going to go rogue. I'm going to take a gamble. I'm going to go with the Patriots against New Orleans. Only it turns out that somehow I accidentally put Dallas in there. So all of a sudden, my 1 p.m. slate is now living and dying with the Dallas Cowboys defense trying to keep my Survivor pick alive this week. So for the second year in a row, I have crashed out of our Survivor League through simple inability to make it pick, right? Not pick the correct team, but simply not be able to actually pick at all. Last year, I simply didn't pick one week and went out that way. This week, or this year and this week, I just picked the wrong team somehow by mistake. So I was already fairly disgusted by the Dallas Cowboys defense this season. I am now disgusted and personally slighted and angered by how utterly pathetic the Dallas Cowboys defense is.
You can help me with my Survivor picks now going forward.
Great. Yeah.
Sorry about it, man. So you and Harry are now out in Survivor. I might not have the best pick 'em, but I'm at least surviving.
Yeah.
Still around here.
So again, just like a wet paper bag, the Dallas Cowboys defense. Rico Dowdle, on his revenge mission, still goes off for like 230-plus all-purpose yards. Sets a franchise record for all-purpose yards, despite literally telling them during the week, I'm coming to wreck you guys.
Rico Dowdle, 183 yards on 30 carries, 56 through the air.
Yeah.
Got behind the defense for a wide-open touchdown. Mm-hmm. Dowdle now has more yards from scrimmage in the last 2 weeks than Saquon Barkley has on the season, by the way, because he went over 200 rushing last week, 183 on the ground this week. Pretty incredible. I just want to I said this to you off air last night. I'll just get it out there right now.
Okay.
Panthers now 3-3.
Yep.
They held Javonte Williams to 29 yards on just 13 carries. They ran the ball for $183. Mm-hmm. Eric Eager, the president, director of whatever he does over there, analytics and such. He's on a run the ball, stop the run type of team. That's what he is.
Having been captain of the good throw the damn ball ship.
Just chuck it around the yard. EPA's higher with the pass. Eric's they don't have the best pass
running
rush
backs don't matter. Passing game matters.
They don't have a great pass rush. They are good at stopping the run. They do have Ashawn Robinson and Derek Brown. They've got some big boys
listening.
Up front.
I already texted him this morning on the way in because Whitesnake came up on my playlist.
Nice.
And one of the most enduring photographs that anyone's seen of Eric Eager is him sitting there in a cut-off Whitesnake T-shirt.
If Eric's listening, yeah. I'm just excited that that's the type of team he's on right now. That's where he is.
I mean, look,
but that is something about the Panthers, right? There was last week when the Eric Collins game last week, there was like 7 lead changes. I don't know how many there were in this game, but there was close. They kept going back and forth. George Pickens kept making big plays. Like the Cowboys made big plays through the air, but the Panthers controlling things on the ground.
You can see, you can sort of see in my notes the intensity of my anger during this game, just from the notes that I'm writing during the course.
Make a stop.
One of them is Dallas's defense really is a disgrace. The next one is, and this isn't even anger at Dallas.
I'll let you have one biased game.
This is just misplaced anger during the game. Did you see the Xavier Leggett, who, by the way, we were talking about, like, when Jalen Coker comes back, Leggett's role in this offense may just completely evaporate. Like, there's no purpose of him being out there at this stage. They gave him a wide receiver screen. And this is why I think there might still be, like, there should be a role for Xavier Leggett, even in a very limited skill set within this offense, because he's big, strong, and fast.
Yes.
They gave him
big, strong, and fast plays.
Exactly. Yeah. They gave him a simple, like, wide receiver screen, and he made a decent play where he plows through a couple of guys. Like, he's still big, strong, and fast. However, that gets mitigated slightly if your decision-making is questionable at best, right? I am as big a fan of rugby-style offloads and laterals as literally anybody out there. And so, okay, if you've got small kids listening, you might want to, skip on 10 seconds. The note is simply,
earmuffs, Harry.
I am as big a fan of rugby offloads as anybody. But what in the fuck was Xavier Legette playing at there? Where he just, in the tackle, blindly, it was like the Josh Allen playoff play against Houston, where it's like backwards, upside down, off the back of his hand to a tight end who was vaguely out there on the sideline. You're like, dude, that's insane. Legette does that to Rico Dowdle, I think, who was outside him, who then gets peanut punched, the ball comes out again, and then Legette somehow dives on top of it. But you're like, look, I think there's a huge world of positive EPA plays to be had by exploiting the rugby offload and the tackle. That was not the play to do it on, though.
Do you have an official database of every offload or pitch?
No.
Okay. You should. You should have that running.
So the way you have,
if you're going to do your rugby
consulting. Yeah, I need to modernize the system. The way that you have hard copies of random things that would serve on a screen, I have little notes where I've written down individual plays over the years, but they're not in a database anywhere.
You should get an intern to maybe pull it together,
digitize my stuff.
Yeah, digitize.
This is literal boomer, putting the VHS into MP3 or MP4 form.
Oh, I just got one of my 2 VCRs to start working. I was firing up some old vids.
You actually still own a VCR?
I do, and many, many VHS tapes. I know that's a shocker to you, but I've got some old footage of me pitching that I'll send you. I'll send you some clips from me pitching from 20 years ago this season, 2005. Anyway, this game was very back and forth. Some big plays. You got the Rico Dowdle play early in the second half, put the Panthers up. Dak comes back to George Pickens. George Pickens looks like he's just having a ball out there. He's just running, loaf of bread, leaping over nobody, leaping over people and leaping over nobody, just leaping. Doesn't know what he's doing, but he's having fun doing it.
This was
doing it at a high level, 9 for 168.
This was like a signature Pickens game. This was like college Pickens. Yeah, hurdling a guy early, yards after the catch, monster, just dominating people, absolute beast in this offense. Whether you can keep that going with both him and CeeDee Lamb in the lineup when they're back, I don't know. But, he showed this is a game where you say Pickens can be wide receiver 1 in an offense. He's not just a guy that works as a nice complement to a wide receiver 1. The dude can be a beast in his own right.
This is why I said and maybe overrated my own analysis here, but if they could just figure it out defensively, if they could just be a little bit better defensively, this offense can be dangerous. Dak's playing at a high level, Pickens playing at a high level, doing it behind a makeshift offensive line, and you still have CeeDee Lamb coming back. So Pickens helps the Cowboys take the lead 24-20. Bryce Young comes back with there were 2 really nice touchdowns to Teterow and McMillan. The first one, double move, they isolated him on the safety. Bryce Young with a nice little shoulder fake paired with the good route by McMillan. He was wide open behind the defense. Again, a Dallas defense issue. You probably saw it from the Dallas perspective. Yeah. You guys are terrible. I'm watching it from Carolina's perspective. Nice route. Disgusting. Nice little shoulder shimmy defense from Bryce Young. And he did the same thing coming out of a bootleg. Greg Olsen, once again, really nice job saying he just ducked the right shoulder to come free, to break a tackle, to get the pass off for a 2-yard touchdown. That was really nice from Bryce Young as well. And then it's 27-27, and the Panthers go 15 plays for 71 yards for the game-winning field goal. And the key play in there is a 4th and 4. Again, Olsen highlighted it. He's like, this is one play to keep the ball, to not get the ball back to Dallas. He said it's the right move, right? You're playing to win, and if you don't get it, Dallas has 20 yards to get into Brandon Aubrey's field goal range.
Right.
And Bryce Young hits Hunter Renfrow for 7 yards on 4th and 4, and they do not give the ball up for the rest of the game.
4th and 4, and the Dallas defense is playing 8 yards off coverage. What are we doing?
Yeah.
What they had they had more than this, but it felt like in this game, my survivor pick is riding on the Dallas defense at some point getting a defensive stop, and that doesn't feel likely. Or Dallas having the ball last, right? They finally got a stop, and the Dallas offense followed that up with a 3-and-out that lost yardage. You're like, nah, At that point, it's gone. It's done. They're losing this game because you had one opportunity. Your defense actually got a miracle stop in the second half, and that's the time your offense decides to not move the ball.
Yeah. How's your do you have any other frustrating notes in there?
What do we got?
What's that Dak stat that you pulled out? Do we have that?
I thought they had another defensive stop, but they got defensive pass interference on 3rd and 8 to extend a drive as well. Like, they just consistently find a way of screwing up on defense. One of my notes begins with arg, that was the 4th down conversion. It's like, it's not happening.
We do about 278 games or whatever it is. You're allowed one.
I mean, rarely do I care about the outcome of a game.
Yeah.
But in this particular one, I was invested in it because of an error in selecting my survivor.
Todd Archer from ESPN Research. Since starts were first tracked in 1950.
Yes.
QB starts. Dak Prescott's the first quarterback to have 11 or more passing and rushing touchdowns, no turnovers, and a non-winning record over a 3-start span.
Yeah. So basically, the first time in history that somebody has posted this kind of stat line that Dak Prescott has.
What's he, 1-1-1?
And yeah,
non-winning?
And doesn't have a winning record. That's nuts.
Yeah, I feel like they're breaking records for offensive performance and losses.
I mean, that's how bad this defense is. Like, Dak Prescott is doing historical things, whatever about, how much of that is luck and turnover luck and that kind of stuff. He is putting up all-time statistical numbers that are being literally undermined by the fact that the defense cannot stop anything.
One more thing about the Rico Dowdle thing. We're seeing, you never know where injury is going to hit. Chuba Hubbard had been a bit of a workhorse for the Panthers. They had Jonathan Brooks, who they drafted in the 2nd round last year. He got hurt last year. We knew he wasn't going to be around this year. But they went and got Dowdle in free agency. And they drafted, 2 running backs, or at least one? Trevor Etienne, maybe a second one, but they at least drafted Etienne in the 4th. And, that's a lot of not a lot of investment. That's a lot of bodies invested at the running back position. But getting Dowdle, who was coming off of a good season with the Cowboys, when you already have Chuba Hubbard, and now with Hubbard's injuries, we're seeing how that is, paying off for the Panthers these last couple of weeks.
Yeah.
So credit to the Panthers for the running back depth. They're getting back to 3-3, and they're now 3-0 at home, 0-3 on the road. See what happens here.
Bryce Young,
big splits.
Bryce Young ends up with a passer rating of 115, and passer ratings get torpedoed by turnovers, interceptions. And the interception was like a drop, effectively. It was one of those ones off the hands of his receivers. It ends up getting turned over. So again, it's like he averaged eight yards per attempt, had a passer rating of 115. And I don't know what that jumps up to if you take away the interception. But that was a Carolina error.
Probably $130.
So like the Dallas defense effectively conspired to allow 8+ yards per attempt and a passer rating of 120 something for Bryce Young, the guy who's calibrated to average 5 yards per attempt and pass for $150.
You good with this game? You done?
Yeah, well, not good with it, but I'm done.
Indianapolis Colts are now 5-1. 31-27 win over the Arizona Cardinals. 4th straight loss for the Cardinals. As you said, Kyler Murray did not play in this game. Jacoby Brissett got the start. He goes 27-44 for 320. Did a pretty good job throwing the ball down the field in this game for the Cardinals. They lost Marvin Harrison Jr. somewhat early in this game, made a big catch, lands on his head. Concussion symptoms, they said. I'm assuming he just failed concussion protocol.
Right.
But the Colts do it again, man. Another 4th quarter comeback. Jonathan Taylor, the game-winning touchdown. He goes for $123, including that score. And Daniel Jones, 22 of 30 for 212 and 2 touchdowns and a pick in the win.
I suppose we have to start this game by the
What
fact
happened
that the Colts
pregame?
lost 2 separate players in 2 separate pregame incidents, one of which required hospitalization and the other which was a concussion. That's insane. So the first one was Trevarius Ward. There's video of this somewhere where he's just running like a one-on-one, back pedal and then go to the sideline, catch the football type of drill. As a tight end, I think, is running onto the field, and they just collide, and Trevarius Ward is like instant KO'd, like just clocked by his tight end and man down on the floor. Concussed, out of the game, done. I've never seen that before. That's kind of crazy. Anthony Richardson apparently fractured an orbital bone, which is like the, cheek eye socket bone in your face with an elastic band pre-warm-up.
Doing band work.
Yes. Now, I
must have been the handle.
Somebody was saying, I forget where I saw this, that they have some kind of apparatus in the locker room where you attach bands to, right?
Right.
And do it. I don't know if like a wooden arm of one of those came off in the band and but I don't know how you can fracture an orbital socket with an elastic band, even one of those, high. It feels like that requires more force than that. But anyway, somehow in the locker room warming up, Anthony Richardson fractures an eye socket with an elastic band, and he's done. And you're like, what the hell is happening?
Always a fear when I was doing band work.
Always.
That it was just going to...
You knew the danger.
Yeah, that something was just going to pop up in my face. You just never know when you're doing band work. I'm serious. I mean, it just...
That was a fear for you.
Well, like the ones that I had with handles, So I had one that I hooked like a, like a metal hook to like a fence. And if for some reason that wasn't hooked on properly or whatever, and that came flying at me, dangerous.
It's literally never occurred to me that the thing could break an eye socket, though. Like I've maybe thought,
probably
if this snaps, it's going to hurt.
That was a strange pregame, though, for the Colts.
Yeah, very strange.
So this was a good back and forth game, and dare I say, just from a Cardinals perspective, their pass game looked pretty good, and I already see people in the chat saying they kind of got hosed. If we work backwards here, 2-minute warning, they had a big 31-yarder to Michael Wilson, to put them into range, down 4, right, for a game-winning touchdown opportunity. They let the clock run down again. Now the next 3 plays were poor. They had an incompletion. They had scramble drill sack from Brissett, where he probably should have gotten rid of the ball, whatever. But on the very last play, Trey McBride calling for a flag in the end zone. They don't give it to him. That would have been first and goal from the 1, and you would have think, all right. I mean, you'd think the Cardinals probably win it at that point. So not to take anything away from the Colts, but we do have that questionable call and the leverage. I'm going to keep mentioning the leverage play because you've got a 4-2 Broncos team and a 5-1 Colts team, and that could easily be 2 records that are completely flipped based off a leverage call back in week 2. So I think the Colts offense still looks fantastic. I don't even think – Daniel Jones made some big plays in here. He had a bad interception in there. Mac Wilson made a great play.
Really was a great play.
Not even Daniel Jones' best game necessarily, but that's how good this offense has been. He still made big throws when he needed to, had the nice running touchdown. Jonathan Taylor still looks good. Like the Colts offense still looks like a juggernaut right now. But, the Cardinals almost pulled this off, and you could argue, got hosed at the end.
They did. I mean, that was an impressive performance from them. They were, you take Kyler Murray and Marvin Harrison Jr. out of the lineup, and now your receivers are Trey McBride, Zay Jones, Michael Wilson. You're like, that's just not enough against the Colts defense, and it kind of was. Those guys with Jacoby Brissett were getting it done. Michael Wilson had that fantastic play on the slot fade. Trey McBride was a beast. Zay Jones made some plays. He also left some on the table, which was the margin there is tough because this game ended up being really close, so maybe that was a difference. But, yeah, they were impressive given the bodies that they were depleted. And, of course, they're already down, their top 2 running backs. DeMarcado is obviously persona non grata after fumbling at the 1-yard line last week. So, Bam Knight, they were saying on the broadcast at some point, the coordinator is telling us, watch out for Bam Knight. He's going to get a much expanded. Really? He's going to get a bigger role this week after last week? Yeah, it's surprising.
He had a 1-yard touchdown.
Yeah.
Bam Knight was an almost friend of the show.
Oh, yeah? Yeah.
That's right. He was scheduled
interviews
for the show, and just didn't work out with Bam.
I wonder who we were bumped for.
We may have bumped him.
Oh, that's true. Yeah.
Not to – the guy's the leading rusher for the Cardinals, and we're over there we're too good for you.
It happens to all of us.
I don't know what happened, but we may have had to cancel on him. I don't remember exactly. Anyway, Brissett hit Marvin Harrison Jr. for a 21-yarder. He hit his head. But there was still, Brissett made a lot of big throws to Zay Jones, McBride, Michael Wilson for the 30-yarder, as I said, to get them into scoring range. Elijah Higgins making some plays again for Arizona. It was pretty good-looking passing attack for the Cardinals.
Yeah.
Without Marvin Harrison Jr. and without Kyler Murray. Do with that what you want. Brissett's a good backup, though, right? This happens a lot. Brissett is like Mac Jones, more than capable of coming in and putting together a good game.
Yeah, but you've also seen the problem with these things is like you've seen so many times where Jacoby Brissett has come in. You're like, he's a good backup, and then he goes for like 150 yards and looks completely non-functional.
Oh yeah, I'm just saying in this
like
game,
Jake Browning coming into the year, you would have been like Jake Browning's one of the top 5 backup quarterbacks in the NFL, and the Bengals just traded for Joe Flacco specifically to get Browning out of the lineup.
Until he's not. And then from a Colts perspective, again, just the number of plays in their offense. Really nice tight window throw by Daniel Jones to Alec Pearson there. They freed up Tyler Warren again for an early touchdown. They got Josh Downs on the crossing route for a touchdown. They have just too many weapons offensively right now. And then the run game. They did a nice job up front, and Jonathan Taylor for another 6 yards of carry in this game.
The Cardinals used a 6th offensive lineman an absolute ton in this game as well, which was an interesting wrinkle. Like Buffalo used to do that last year more than anybody else in the league by a mile, and then that became Jackson Hawes this year because they were like, well, what if the 6th offensive lineman could also ball? The Cardinals had Kelvin Beachum on the field for like 20 snaps in this game.
That's a lot. That's impressive. I mean, not impressive, but I like the extreme strategery the teams pull out here. Yeah. From a Colts perspective, for a team that's 5-1, I thought they handled adversity well. Again, if you say what you want about almost let the Cardinals back into it. The Cardinals are dealing with their 3rd and 4th string running back, or 4th and 5th string running backs if you really want to, lay it out there. No wide receiver 1 for most of the game, and backup quarterback. So that's the Cardinals' perspective. They played hard, but 4th straight loss. From a Colts perspective, they kept having answers, right? There's something to you lose the lead, you're in a tie game, and they just kept bouncing back and making plays in this one. I think that was impressive, man. I thought that was what good teams do, and the Colts, you didn't want to come out of this blowing an opportunity against the backup quarterback and the backup offensive skill position players, and the Colts made sure that they got the win.
Yeah, and look, whatever about Anthony Richardson, like Travarius Ward is an important player to lose just before the game. Like that's a significant loss for this team.
Anything else on this one?
Nope.
Good job by the Colts here. Quick break to talk about our friends over at Root Insurance. Root Insurance believes that good drivers deserve better rates. So they've created a new kind of car insurance that rewards good drivers in an easy-to-use app. Traditional car insurance companies focus on demographics like age, zip code, occupation, and credit score to price your coverage. But when Root offers a rate, your behavior behind the wheel gets more weight than any other single factor. They don't use occupation or education level to negatively affect your rate. While you drive, Root gathers and analyzes data from your smartphone sensors. After a few weeks, you'll get a car insurance quote based primarily on your driving. Save up to 44% off your initial Root quote after you take the test drive. If you need a tow truck, jump start, or if you lock your keys in the car, Root will cover the help you need to get back on the road when you opt into roadside assistance. The Root app makes it easy to edit your coverage, update your policy, or file a claim in just 3 minutes. You could get started today at Root.com. Los Angeles Chargers and the Miami Dolphins. Chargers get the win 29-27. It was 27-26. Late. Justin Herbert finds Ladd McConkey for a 42-yard catch and scamper to get into field goal range for the game winner. Justin Herbert breaking free from a sack attempt to find Ladd. Ladd had a touchdown in the game, 100 total yards, but the 42-yarder sets up the game-winning field goal. Another heartbreaker for the Dolphins, and the Chargers survive with Bobby Hart starting at right tackle to go to 4-2.
People are being harsh on Bobby Hart. Even in the broadcast, people
were they? I wasn't listening. Wait, you've never been the biggest Bobby Hart guy.
Bobby Hart is not a good football player. He is, however, not.
Wait. Relative to other NFL players, like in the grand
relative
scheme
to
of
you,
world.
Bobby Hart is very, very good. Relative to people getting paid to do this on national TV, he's not good. Right? That's not a controversial statement. Bobby Hart is not a good football player. The NFL has come to that conclusion. Obviously, those statements are always within the context of paid professional athletes, not in the context of a fat guy on his couch over there, right? Bobby Hart, relative to other NFL players, is not good. He's not, however, dramatically different from other non-starting caliber offensive tackles in the NFL. People were like, man, I thought this was a rough situation. And then Bobby Hart came in, and it's like, we might as well.
He had not started
surrender.
A game.
We might as well forfeit the game right now, because what's the point when Bobby Hart's your offensive tackle?
He had not started a game since 2021. Just
right,
saying.
But it's like, come on, how much worse is it having Bobby Hart out there than like other backup caliber offensive tackles? Anyway, But the offensive line for the Chargers, I mean, we said, look, one of the huge variables in this game is the Chargers' offensive line right now is so banged up that they may be non-functional completely versus a Miami defensive line that should be better than it's been. It should be more effective. Can this offensive line spark that Dolphins defense to life? And generally it didn't. Now, the play you talked about, the Justin Herbert escape, that was one occasion where it could have done that. Multiple Dolphins defensive linemen got pressure on that play quickly. Jalen Phillips and Chop Robinson, I think, were both basically in Herbert's face immediately. And somehow Herbert gets out of sort of steps up to evade Robinson. Phillips, they're coming from the same side, so Phillips kind of on his own guides Robinson past the play. But Phillips has hold of Herbert, and however you want to frame that, Phillips falls off the tackle, Herbert gets out of the tackle. Either way, it's not a sack, and instead Justin Herbert not only finds Ladd McConkey, but it becomes a huge play. McConkey steps inside his guy, goes up the sideline, and that honestly, that's the game winner. Like, that's the difference between winning and losing is that individual play right there.
Yeah, it was a huge play. I mean, the Dolphins, I thought overall their run defense was better, and they still gave up a $124 to
Vidal.
Yes,
Vidal.
To Vidal.
That guy's name. We need to have
Vidal.
Generally speaking, like my thing is when everyone's saying one thing and then later on it's like actually it's pronounced something different. That's kind of annoying. What's more annoying is when we can't all just collectively decide what a guy's name is pronounced like. Every broadcaster says Vidal's name differently. We need to stop that. Just pick one. I don't care which one. Just everyone agree. Vidal. What is it?
Want?
I would have gone something different, but the one that seemed to be most closely accepted was Vidal.
Vidal. Come on, Vidal. How's that?
I mean, it's not great, but just pick one. Stick with it.
He had a long 38-yarder on 3rd and 1.
Again, looks really good.
Like the Dolphins, in previous weeks, I thought they were just getting physically manhandled at the point of attack. And it wasn't necessarily that, but then it was like run fits and, giving up a 38-yarder on 3rd and 1, which was a big play. So they still end up giving up 5.6 per carry and 140 yards on the ground in this one. Just a classic Dolphins game, right? Like their big runs were all outside. Devin Achane has a 49-yarder, which was wide open. He just outruns the defense.
He's really good.
He is really good. But it's just classic Dolphins. They had all the same stuff. They had some run defense breakdowns, the Dolphins. Some big plays in the run game with Achane, usually to the perimeter. They had Jonah Savinier, the rookie second-round guard, with some non-competitive blocks where you just can't run an offense. They had all of the same stuff, and those are like the Dolphins. They're 1-5, but they have like 6 or 7 plays a game, whether it's their run defense, their pass protection, that in a league where that comes down to like a couple plays here and there. There's that many non-competitive plays from this Dolphins team on both sides of the ball that make the difference. And then when they do win the pass rush, when they do get to the quarterback and they can't take Herbert down, I mean that ends up being a big play.
I mean,
obviously.
you have to make that play. Like that was one of the plays where that's why those guys are first-round draft picks, is to get that kind of pressure and to make that play. Jalen Phillips is a big, strong, athletic pass rusher. Okay, Herbert is that as well, but he's a quarterback. You got there. It wasn't like there was an offensive lineman still engaged. You were getting pushed off the tackle. You basically had a one-on-one attempt at bringing down Justin Herbert, and you couldn't make the play. That's emblematic of Miami this season. The Chargers, in addition to having an offensive line that's generally been a problem, obviously with how deep into the bench they've had to go, they've also made a lot of mistakes this season. Like they keep finding ways of turning the ball over at inopportune times, or giving teams opportunities. The rookie Gadsden fumbles the ball away, and almost immediately Achane houses that one and turns that into points
after an early Tua
it's
interception.
Exactly.
Yep.
So that's like a 7-point mistake. You end up spotting the other team 7 points. That's always really difficult to come back from when you have an offensive line that's like this.
I thought the Chargers defense did a pretty good job. It was a weird game. Like Tua had 2 interceptions early. The game ended on an interception to Derwin James as well. Forced a couple passes early on. Still not I think we've seen maybe 1 or 2 good games from Tua.
Yeah,
far this season.
Yeah, one of them really wasn't his fault. It was off the hands of Waddle.
That's right. The tip off Waddle.
It is kind of funny that he threw an
St. Jude's
interception.
nice.
He threw an interception on pitchy woo woo. At the end. That's kind of funny.
And if you're into were the Chargers going to cover, like the Chargers were going to cover until he hit Darren Waller for the go-ahead score. But Derwin could have taken that to the house for the cover, but
Got
he
it
ran
back.
out of bounds.
Yeah.
That was a nice play, though, too. Like the Waller play, some patience to let that develop, and Waller with another touchdown, leading all rappers with 4 receiving touchdowns this year. Good job by Darren. You say I'm not funny, but look at you.
That was funny. Every now and again you hit one,
You just never know when it's going to.
It's a low, you've got a low percentage.
You never know when it's going to hit.
But every now and again it's good.
Anything else from a Chargers perspective? Because we have to talk about Tua's post-game comments.
Yeah, no, let's get to that.
Do you want to read the quote, or do you want to paraphrase it?
I don't have the
Do you have it?
quote
Okay.
handy.
Tua's basically saying, look, we've got no accountability, poor leadership. Paraphrasing here, poor leadership in the building.
Yes.
And players have been late to players-only meetings.
Or not even showing up at all.
Or not even showing up. Which,
Yeah.
by the way, we're in week 6. Week 6 right now. They're 1-5. We were like the siren was going off in week 1 because the Dolphins were calling players-only meetings. We had like Ryan Fitzpatrick out here being like, man, nothing good comes out of the players-only meeting. You try to have maybe one a season, and it's just like desperation mode.
Yeah, usually it's like now is when you have the players-only meeting.
Hey guys,
When
we're
you're
1-5.
right.
Let's get together.
You're 1-5. It's crisis mode. We didn't expect to be here. Let's have a players-only meeting to pull ourselves out of this tailspin. The Dolphins, I think, called the first players-only meeting after week 1. It's like, what the hell is that? So, okay, number one, the initial tweet that I saw came from one of those accounts that is just like a pure troll farm at this point, right? You basically assume that everything that comes from that account is in some way false or misleading, right?
Yeah.
So the initial tweet I saw was like, Tua questions leadership in Miami. You're like, well, that can't possibly be the case. That's insane. So I watched the video, and literally like the first words out of his mouth when being asked about what was going on was, it's like a lack of leadership in the building. From the player point of view, you're like, well, that's you. Like, you're the leadership in the building. You're the quarterback of this team. So, and then he goes on to say, guys are not showing up or showing up late to the players-only meetings. And it's like, okay, number one, how can you possibly even mention the word leadership from a player point of view without understanding that that is you? You are supposed to be the leader of this football team as its quarterback. So simply bringing up that thing, like, clearly in his brain, that never registered. That, like, I should be the leader of this team, and I am bringing up a lack of leadership amongst the playing population. Even if you want to then bring nuance to it and say, there's a leadership sort of group and other people are not showing up, whatever, you have to at least, like, reference that, I'm doing my part and other people are not, whatever. He never even, it's just like, leadership's the problem. And then end of statement, right? Without it ever, the synapses ever joining in his head to be like, hang on, that means that I'm failing here. That's bizarre. I am, however, interested. I need to know, Miami beat writers, if you're out there, if you're listening to this show, the piece of information that is lacking from this dynamic is I want to know how many players-only meetings have been called and what is the cadence. Because, as we said, we do know that they've been called since at least week 1, right?
And in that time, they've played 0 good games.
Correct. So have they been weekly? Have they been twice a week? What is the cadence here? Because how many players-only meetings would need to be called before you would be like, you know what, I'm done with this. I don't care anymore.
If you had one in week 1 after you got wrecked by the Colts,
yes,
I assume it was after. And then since that time, you've won one game, and it was against the Jets when the Jets had 12 pre-snap
So
penalties.
that week we didn't need one. Yeah,
at least 5.
So that's the thing, right? How many would you need?
Now you'll have another one, like Wednesday's another one.
How many would you need to have experienced before you would be okay with being 10 minutes
we
late?
can ask, Mohal reminded us, we can ask Bobby.
That's true. We could text Bobby. I'm just saying that, like, if we're 6 players-only meetings deep into this thing, I would be okay with a guy being 10 minutes late to that. I don't think that that's an indictment of that individual player being like, we're six players-only meetings. This is a joke. We're doing nothing in these things. I'm kind of treating them with the respect they deserve by blowing them off, right? I would have some sympathy with that individual player. Now, if If they called one week 1 and we haven't had one since then all right, fair enough. That's a problem. Or we had one last week, so this is the second one, and already people are blowing them off. Then yeah, okay, maybe. Either way, I think it reflects worse on the leadership that's missing in Miami than it does the individual player that's blowing off these meetings.
You already have a former player, Deshaun Hamilton, calling him out.
Yeah.
Saying, you were late to he was like, I was in Miami for a minute, and I already was in a meeting where you were late.
Yeah, and then Mike McDaniel was asked about Tua's comments, and he's like, yeah, obviously he's trying to send a message to these guys. You're like, yeah, but he's not. He's not naming them. He's not sending a message to anybody individually. He's saying there's a lack of leadership generally in the building, and the most obvious source of leadership is the quarterback, but it's not me. It's directionless. It's like Miami in a nutshell.
I appreciate when players are honest, and we bring this up all the time. We're like, well, we always ask players to be honest, and then they are, and they get trashed or whatever. But as the quarterback, CEO of the team, co-CEO with the coach,
right,
you do have to make good decisions. And now we're at a point with Tua where we've heard some aired grievances against former head coach Brian Flores, where at the time, Mike McDaniel came in and he patted Tua on the back and said, hey, buddy, let's watch all your good plays. Let's get your confidence built up. And it looked like it worked for a while, 2022
it did
and
work.
2023, and it did work for a while. And now that may have run its course as the roster's been a little depleted. But the bottom line for the Dolphins, for me, is that I think the roster's been depleted and they're underachieving, and all of their issues, physicality, winning in the trenches, things that they weren't even doing all that well when they were winning, has gotten worse. And so everything's just getting worse there, and we'll see if there ends up becoming a change.
Yeah. I mean, I think the big part of all this is whether or not you want to blame Tua or Mike McDaniel or whoever, it's a pretty bad indictment of the culture overall that players are not treating these things seriously, and the quarterback can't fix that. Like, the quarterback, who should be the leader of this team, can you imagine, number one, the season never happened like that, but let's say, a Peyton Manning, a Tom Brady, or insert unquestioned leader of football team, whoever you want to pick, right? If they had a season that began like this, like Joe Burrow, a 1-6 led Joe Burrow team, do you think that there would be a single player on that roster that would treat a players-only meeting as something that they could goof off on, not show up to, be 10 minutes late with Joe Burrow as the quarterback of that team? Number one, would never happen. Number two, if it did, do you think that Joe Burrow would not be able to fix that immediately by going up to that guy and saying, dude, what are you doing?
Yeah.
Cut it out immediately. That doesn't fly. This is why we're 1-5. You are the problem, right? Instead, Tua either didn't get that message across, right? Either tried to do that and they were like, get out of here, right? Or didn't even try and do it, and instead he's trying to say it to the media and be like, wow, I'm going to call this guy out in public without mentioning his name. That's not either way. So in 3 separate ways, that's a bad indictment of the leadership in the building. That's the problem in Miami, is that this is the dynamic we're dealing with.
Yeah, it's not great. Not great for the Dolphins right now. Anything else on this game?
No.
Let's go New England Patriots. What did they finish with? 25. New Orleans Saints 19. Felt like the Patriots scored 40 because they did.
My survivor pick.
Patriots moved to rest in peace survivor pick. For those just tuning in, Sam wanted to pick the Patriots and accidentally picked the Cowboys. He's out. See you next year. Yeah. Patriots 4-2. Saints fall to 1-5. Strange game all the way right off the bat. You have Drake May hits Demario Douglas with an incredible on Demario Douglas's part. Good. It was a great throw by Drake May, but Demario Douglas weaves through the defense for a 53-yard touchdown. And then just a little bit later, does the same thing for a 61-yard touchdown, which gets negated by a phantom penalty that got thrown after the play. And after rewatching it a million times, even using the wide angle, I didn't see any penalty. I still don't know what happened there.
Then
it was like the refs came back with 7 makeup calls just to make up for the fact that they took a 61-yarder off the board.
So this is the thing. I think you just have to conclude that this was overall a terribly officiated game, right? And because obviously everyone, the conspiracy theorists, are
but
out
it's
in
not
force.
even.
It's like, they hate the Patriots. Look at them. They're trying to
It's not even like a fixes in type of thing. Like whatever the 61-yarder, it was one of the most egregious made-up calls I've ever seen. But the very next play, they added a phantom pass interference and then a defensive hold, and they're like, let's try to make up for it.
I wouldn't even go as far as ascribing motivation to like it was. You're right that the balance of them was we screw New England really bad to begin with, and then we go and spend most of the rest of the game screwing the Saints, and then come back at the end to screw the Patriots again. And it's like it felt like they were just trying to make up for the terrible call in New England. I think it was just incompetent officiating start to finish, right? And that's the way it balanced out was the incompetent officiating screwed the Patriots at the start and the end, and in the middle it was all the Saints. But the point is, overall, it was just terrible, awful officiating. Did you see the explanation for that initial pass interference call?
I skimmed it, and it still didn't make sense to me. Did they call it on Diggs?
Yeah. It basically, so the reason, because it was, number one, it didn't look like a penalty at all. And number two, the other element of it that was weird was how late the flag came out, which is maybe the latest flag I've ever seen on a play.
Because the broadcast was like showing the replay.
Yeah.
Talking about the great play. Unbelievable by Demario Douglas. What a great play. And then they were like, there's a flag?
Like
they
people
were waiting
thought,
for the extra point.
People thought the flag was on the celebration. It came out so late.
Right.
So he says, all right, the pool report to the official, referee Adrian Hill. The follow-up question, mechanically, with the later timing of the penalty and the subsequent, they always ask these questions in a weird, like, the question you want to ask is, why did the damn flag take a week and a half to come out? Instead, the question was, the follow-up question, mechanically, with the later timing of the penalty and the subsequent announcement as both teams had their special teams units on the field, how did that unfold, the timing? It's a bizarre way of wording that. Anyway, Hill's answer was, the official was processing the play, and then he came over to me on the 020, the official-to-official communication system. Because it was a long developing play, he had to rewind back to what happened at the beginning of the play and process that. So the reason it took a week and a half for the flag to come out is the official in his brain was rewinding the VHS to remember what happened at the start of the play, not the end of the play.
So this, in the Diggs one, I think he ran like a little 5-yard out.
Yeah.
And there was like a little contact at 5.
So this whole, the whole Bob Douglas thing has happened, and this guy's in his head is rewinding to the 5-yard out at the start of the play, being like, was that the pass interference that I thought it was? Yeah, I think it was.
And Pop Douglas, DeMario, awesome play. 2 awesome plays. The fact that he got into the end zone on both of them.
Yeah.
And, I mean, we'll talk about Drake May in this one. Drake May's official stat line, 18 of 26 for 261, 3 touchdowns, and 140 passer rating, 10 yards per attempt. It's a good stat line.
I mean, look, last week was being billed.
Doesn't even do justice to how well Drake May played.
Last week was being billed as, Drake May's coming out party against the Buffalo Bills, and he looked like Josh Allen against Josh Allen. And then you're like, okay, that's great, but it's one game on primetime, albeit against elite opposition. And Stephon Diggs was saying during the week, like, this is as big a challenge as that to show that we can do it again in a letdown spot, in a potential trap game. And Drake May comes out and looks every bit as good as he did a week ago, and in a different way. Like, this time I'm just going to be laser dot focused on absolute dimes deep down the field, on top of the, efficient stuff underneath as well, and was just balling, like, start to finish. And Diggs was right. Like, it was a trap game. The Saints showed up to play. Spencer Rattler made some plays as well. They had their own 50-yard bomb right at the start. Like, they were not going to let the Patriots just have this easily. You needed Drake May to be on.
Look, the Saints fought hard again, and Rattler looked good.
Mm-hmm.
And I think he is settled in. I want to talk about Rattler in a minute. The Saints made a few mistakes, and the Patriots made some really key stops in the fourth quarter to handle the comeback. But I want to talk Drake May. Let's start with Drake May, because he has the 2 Pop Douglas plays early in the game, both really nice throws. They end up sealing the deal with a back shoulder to Kayshon Boutte, who had a great game. That was with, game on the line, 21-yard back shoulder, great connection there. After the negated touchdown, it wasn't like the Patriots completely got screwed here. They ended up still scoring on that drive later on, in part because I think there was a makeup call. There was like a 21-yard pass interference against Kyle Williams, which was like, I don't think that was pass interference, but, Patriots probably earned it after they took a 61-yarder away from them. But the Kayshon Boutte touchdown that Drake May threw into tight coverage, Boutte made some great plays in tight coverage. Then they're backed up on, they have a Stephon Diggs offensive push-off or whatever they called, which was suspect.
Mm-hmm.
Drake May dropped that in a bucket.
Yep.
And then there was a pass on 3rd and 27 to Mac Hollins where there's a little bit of contact, and it looks like an overthrow because there's contact. But, man, if he's not slowed up by that contact, that's another 45, 50-yard dime by Drake May. And this is when they're just backed up 3rd and 27, and it looks like he's just heaving it, and he puts it into just a perfect spot. May is looking unbelievable right now.
Yeah.
Pinpoint accuracy, pocket movement with a purpose with May. And for a guy whose biggest question mark, I think, coming out is like, oh, he misses some easy ones. And this, like, he's complete like 73, 74% of his passes. And the stat line of 140 passer rating, which Scott Hansen kept citing his passer rating on Red Zone 900 times yesterday, it should have been perfect probably if he just add a couple of those downfield dimes that he had that should have been caught and, counted.
He was fantastic in this game. Really, really good. The other thing is huge play in the game. It's a one-score game. You look at the numbers, it's very, very similar both sides, except the turnover battle.
Yep.
1 to New Orleans, 0 to New England. And that one
is a big one.
Razor thin as well, though. Like, Juwan Johnson's caught the ball, he's going to ground, and a peanut punch comes in. And it's like, does the punch knock the ball loose before or after his knee touches the ground? And it definitely makes contact, but it's one where it knocked it loose, but he sort of still, like, it knocked it from his hand, but he then, turtled up and is like, I'm still clutching it to my groin effectively, right? Like, the ball is still sort of...
When does the loss of possession
start,
basically?
It's like, is he in possession when he's sort of in a fetal position surrounding the football, even though it's been knocked from his hand? And then when he goes to ground, the ground causes that whole fetal position thing to unfold and the ball comes down. Like, this was one where, I don't have a problem with calling that a fumble, but if it had gone the other way, I wouldn't have had a huge problem with that either. Like, that was a razor-thin call, and that's the one turnover that ends up being a huge difference in the game.
Was it Levante David who almost forced one on Mac Jones?
Almost.
But I thought that was the same thing, where, like, the punch happened, the loss of control happened later than the punch. So when you start to go frame by frame and Mac Jones had his shin down before
that one I
his
think
knee,
was even more debatable, but it was the same idea,
It was the same idea and very close. But that was in the fourth quarter. Christian Ellis, good job with the forced fumble. It was very close. And then, again, I think the Saints had some missed opportunities and the Patriots made some pretty good defensive stops there. Chris Olave had a big drop, and then Rattler an overthrow on 3rd down where they were trying to make the comeback. And then the Patriots get the ball back. They're in 3rd and long, and they seal the deal with that Drake made a Kayshon Boutte play. But I think, again, Rattler, for a guy like Spencer Rattler, who was sacked a ton at South Carolina, had his struggles with ball security and taking negative plays last year for the Saints, he's really morphed into get rid of the ball quickly, make good decisions with the ball. And in this one, like last week, hit a couple of those deep shots. Last week, Rashid Shaheed. This week, early big play to Chris Olave, and just keep them in a game. If the rest of the Saints team was good, I think their playmakers are okay.
Yeah.
With Olave and Rashid Shaheed and Juwan Johnson, like, they're okay. But you need better offensive line consistency. The defense, like, they're just not one of the more talented teams in the league. We've said that all season. It's one of the stories of the year for me, though, right? Like, they're going to have a top 10 pick next year, maybe number 1 overall, and they'll have a decision. This isn't – I don't know if it's like the Bears saying, do we want to keep Justin Fields or do we want to draft Caleb Williams? I think that was a slam dunk decision, but they at least teased that they were going to think about it. Do the Saints have a legitimate decision with the year 3 of Spencer Rattler? By the way, they spent a second on Tyler Shuck, who's backing him up, versus a top 10 pick next year. I think Rattler's absolutely playing himself into this long-term discussion for the Saints.
It's an unusual call. I think the Fields thing was relatively close at the time. People wanted to go to bat for Fields. Maybe.
What did he go, 4-2 or whatever in his 5-2 in his last 2 starts?
And it's like, look, the difference between the two is that you had investment in Fields. Like, he was a former first-round draft pick with supreme talent, et cetera. It's unusual. You rarely get a situation like this where Rattler was, a 5th-round pick in the end? A guy that maybe we thought should go in the 3rd or whatever, and ended up sliding in that draft where a lot of guys, where the next tier slid. But you rarely have a guy who's given that kind of opportunity, looks pretty good in it, and then but the team is bad enough that they lose those games, and end up in a position to draft the next guy. And it's like, because number one, you rarely get guys in the 5th round that get given that kind of opportunity. I mean, the last one was sort of Sam Howell, right? And he had that one season where he looked pretty optimistic. They gave him the next season. He was awful.
Yeah.
So
But they didn't have the choice. It wasn't like they gave up a first round.
Yeah, this is like if Sam Howell had played well in the year that he got given the starting gig, but somehow they had also lost all the games and ended up picking in the same spot, right? Like instead of, it's like they had the Jaden Daniels option, but Sam Howell actually balled out before that spot. That's kind of where they are with Rattler. Now, he's not played quite well enough that I think it's like if it happened tomorrow, right? If the draft starts tomorrow, I mean, who knows what the quarterbacks look like. But let's say fast forward and we end up with the exact same scenario for the rest of the season. I don't think you would say Rattler's played well enough yet that you could pass up a top quarterback. But it's starting to get to a conversation.
And I see Drake in the chat saying, I don't believe in Spencer Rattler. Like, if I'm being honest right now, I don't know. I mean, we're 6 weeks into the season, and I'm just reciting what I'm seeing.
Yeah.
It's been pretty good.
But it's gone from...
But I don't know. Like, we'll see like, there's a lot of football to be played.
It's gone from the assumption that Tyler Shuck was going to be starting this season to actually Tyler Shuck hasn't won this job. We can't possibly give him the gig. And you're like, well, the Saints are done now with Spencer Rattler at QB. This is awful. And Rattler's looked pretty good. Like, Rattler has not been the problem for the first, few weeks of the season. They're 1-5. You wouldn't say any of those games are because Rattler's not good.
Agreed. And then just from a New England perspective, Drake May's playing legit. We don't talk MVP a lot here, but if you're doing MVP races and the whole thing, he's going to be on it. And their schedule's not difficult, right? So early in the season, we said, look, we don't know if the Patriots have completely overhauled this roster yet. Don't know how it's going to work. Don't know what Drake May's year 2 development is, even though it was optimistic in year 1. But he's looking outstanding. You have Vrabel there. They're 4-2. They play the Titans next week. The Browns 2 weeks from now. I mean, they could be looking at 6-2.
Yeah.
And again, they still have to play the Jets twice. Like, they don't have a difficult schedule. They already beat Buffalo in Buffalo.
Yeah.
So this looks like a playoff caliber team that's found their quarterback and head coach, and we'll see how much they take. You don't want to have any slip-ups, right? If you think you're that good, you can't slip up against the Titans or the Browns. But if they take care of business, they're going to make a little run here.
Going all the way back to preseason, if you looked at strength of schedule based off the sort of Vegas win forecast as opposed to last year's record, there were only really 3 teams at either end of the spectrum that had a notable schedule, right? 3 teams with an easier than the group, and then 3 teams with harder than the group. So effectively only 6 teams that it really made any difference to, right? Everyone else is more or less in the middle. There's not much difference. The Patriots had the second easiest schedule in the NFL on paper heading into the season. The 49ers had the easiest. So, like, the Patriots schedule is a real thing. And we were saying, look, even with that in mind, this is a team that could win 4 games. They could win 11 games. I mean, right now you're looking at it and saying this could be an 11-win team.
It's closer to the 11 right now.
They could potentially threaten the Bills for the division. More likely, they're going to be sitting in one of those wild card spots, and this is a playoff team right now.
So Patriots 4-2, Saints fall to 1-5. The last of the 1:00 games. Pittsburgh Steelers get the win over the Cleveland Browns. Steelers move to 4-1. What was the final score here? I just lost it as I'm clicking through things. 23-9. Man, this was the last game to finish in the 1:00 window. The Browns just dragging it out because Dylan Gabriel goes 29 of 52 for just 221, 4.3 yards per attempt, and a passer rating of 66. Got sacked 6 times as well. Steelers pass rush fierce. Like I said about the Seahawks, if you told me earlier in the season this is how the Steelers defense would play, fierce pass rush where it felt like even the plays where the passes, got some throws out, for Gabriel, it just felt like under pressure, condensed. Steelers defense looking really good in this one, and Gabriel, it was a rough one for his second start of his career.
Yeah, I mean, this is what we expected the Steelers defense to look like, and it didn't for the first few weeks of the season. Now it's starting to absolutely kick into gear and cook. And they kind of did the opposite of what the Vikings have been able to do. Like against Minnesota, the Dylan Gabriel-led offense, they were able to run the ball, and then they got the ball out of his hands really quickly and had, the short stuff, the quick stuff was open. The Steelers basically took both those things away. They were like, you're not going to run the ball at all. Quinshon Judkins didn't get anything going, and we're going to try and take away your short stuff. And after that, they didn't have answers.
Can we get Dylan Gabriel's passing chart up there? Because this was, as I'm watching this, I'm like, every single throw is between 5 and 12 yards over the middle of the field.
Yeah.
Look at that. Like the number of passes, just say in between the numbers, but even in between the hashes. Like he had more passes in between the hashes than I think Jalen Hurts has had the last 2 years. Right? Look at that thing. We've joked about Jalen Hurts passing map and the fact that it's all outside the numbers and down the field. If you combine that with Dylan Gabriel, it's like a perfect heat map right now. Because this was, David Njoku over the middle, Jerry Jeudy over the middle. And even a lot of times, I think Gabriel felt rushed. The number of times, and they brought it up on the broadcast, that he threw the ball before the receiver was even looking. And that's where I think he just felt sped up. Like, I know, like his internal clock saying, I got to get rid of this. And they just wasn't on the same page with the receivers a bunch.
It was an average depth of target just over 6, and an average time to throw of 2.5 seconds. So even with that, like trying to get rid of the ball quickly, it wasn't that quick, and he was still under pressure a ton.
And then on the other side, so Nick Herbig, outstanding again, unblockable. There was a few plays in there where you look at it and it's like, man, that pressure was in there quick. The blitz got home, and then oh no, that's just Herbig winning immediately. Mm-hmm. Many plays like that. The Browns still had a ton of opportunities in this one because they actually had the ball a lot. Just couldn't capitalize. Always had to settle for field goals. And then on the other side, I thought this was one of the cleaner games from Aaron Rodgers. You saw they completely negated, I think for the second straight week, they negated a pass rush. They negated the Vikings.
I mean, dude, this is
2 weeks ago.
This is the dream game for Pittsburgh Steelers fans. Not only do they win, comfortable victory against the Browns, it's now 22 straight games or something in the regular season because Baker Mayfield.
That never happened.
Right. In the regular season,
Pony, that
22 straight games that they have beaten the Cleveland Browns, which is pretty crazy. But what do Pittsburgh Steelers fans want more than anything else in the world?
TJ Watt over Myles Garrett.
For Myles Garrett to be anonymous in a game against Pittsburgh, because then you can pretend that he's actually a garbage player, and obviously TJ Watt is better. So when Myles Garrett doesn't show up against the Pittsburgh Steelers, it's Christmas for everybody, even if it's only statistically. Like if he just doesn't have a sack, we can claim that he was terrible, right? But what really happened, if he just doesn't have a huge impact whatsoever from a pressure's point of view, well, now we can celebrate. Hallelujah, he's not even good, right? Myles Garrett in this game statistically had almost no impact whatsoever. No pressure, no sacks, no impact plays. Now, was it because they had extra blockers dedicated to him almost all the time? Yeah, maybe. But the point is we can claim victory on that.
Yeah, and I've seen some numbers that say he won a lot of reps again, even though that he didn't make an impact. So that's what the point I wanted to make was the Steelers' offense the last 2 games now has negated a Vikings pass rush and a Browns pass rush. The Browns pass rush, their 4-man rush, was fierce, but the quick passing game from Rodgers, some misdirection early on, getting Darnell Washington down the field. And I thought early in the year they were doing a lot of just short stuff and screen game with DK Metcalf. Now they're getting him involved down the field, double move for a touchdown. They were attacking New Brown, cornerback Tyson Campbell a bunch. I think the Steelers' offense has found some pretty good rhythm here in the pass game these last couple weeks.
Yeah, I mean, joking aside, it's an impressive job to take away Myles Garrett like this. Like, remember when whatever game it was, a couple of Steelers-Browns matchups ago, where Myles Garrett absolutely destroyed them for the first half, right? And even then they went to halftime and were asking Mike Tomlin in the pointless coaching interview, like, how do you stop Myles Garrett? Like, he's like, we're doing everything we can. They were basically like, are you going to give your left tackle any help? He's like, dude, I'm throwing everything I've got in the playbook at Myles Garrett right now, and he's still destroying this offense. Like, there's nothing more we can do. So, like, even if you dedicate all this attention to Myles Garrett, he's capable of destroying that. But in this game, the extra attention that they threw his way in a variety of different ways, whether it's chip help from the tight end who looks like an offensive tackle himself, whether it's, double teaming with the left guard and left tackle, whatever it is, it worked. And that doesn't always happen. So kudos to the Steelers for executing that game plan and it actually working.
And even though I keep complimenting the Steelers, like it was just 9-6 at one point, and a roughing the kicker penalty, roughing the punter, kept a Pittsburgh drive alive, and then they took advantage of it. I thought Rodgers, really nice scramble drill touchdown to Connor Hayward. They had the double move to DK Metcalf. I thought Rodgers throwing on the move. He had a little shovel pass.
Yeah.
I saw the kids being like, oh, look at Rodgers watching Mahomes tape. It's like, all right, buddy.
I saw somebody being like, we have to stop teenagers being on this app. Like, they were like, Aaron Rodgers is cosplaying Patrick Mahomes. Like, yeah.
Not exactly. That's happening at other places.
Rodgers may have been doing that before Mahomes existed as a thing.
So I think Pittsburgh's starting to find better offensive rhythm than they did even early in the year, or at least Rodgers is. And they did a really nice job. Both sides of the ball and the defense, the pass rush, coming good, man. And the Steelers are now the favorites to win.
The narrow favorites to win the division with a commanding 4-1 lead.
Another funny thing that happened in this game. J.J. Watt's on the call. And,
you must hate this because you don't like the whole dynamic of let's put biased fans in positions where they commentate on their own teams, which has become a thing now in sports.
I think – so my thing is I think you should be able to – I'm less worried about rooting for people. I know people get really offended by that. Like, yeah, JJ should be excited about TJ Watt, his brother, doing well, right? Like, you would want your family to do well. My problem is more like in the analysis, when the analysis is biased, right? So less the rooting, like the Rick Neuheisel thing a couple weeks ago. Did we talk about that on the show? Did I tell you off air? Like Rick Neuheisel's son, Jerry, takes the college football world by storm by taking over play calling for UCLA. And then they wreck Penn State. And Rick works for CBS, and he does their national show, and he's in the studio, and they show him like near tears rooting for his son, who's crushing one of the top 10 team in the nation in his first game play calling. Like, that's awesome. That's cool. But if at the end of that, Rick's like, I think Jerry Neuheisel should be the Penn State head coach because
right, but there's no way of getting one without the second one.
But there's difference. There's a difference between rooting. There's a difference. I can't talk about the Carr family anymore now. They're teammates over here at 33rd team.
But I don't see how you can get the kind of nicey, family reaction without having him employed on the job where he's got to commentate unbiasedly.
So there's two things. First off, when you go out there and it's like Mike Greenberg about the Jets, like venting about the Jets, like I don't think anybody cares about that or should care or needs to hear that. But if Mike Greenberg's like, I think the Jets are the Super Bowl champions because blah, 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 like that's biased. If J.J. Watt is like, T.J. Watt is Defensive Player of the Year in perpetuity because he's the most difficult to block no matter what I see, that's biased. When Derek said, when David said that Derek was MVP one year, that was biased.
Sure.
He was clearly not the MVP. That is biased. But for him to be, you should be excited for your brother to do well.
Of course you should be. But my point is, I don't see how you can get that reaction without also getting inherently biased analysis in his actual job covering that game or whatever, right? Like CBS, they have these social clips where Jamie Carragher, Liverpool are playing, Jamie Carragher, former Liverpool legend, Liverpool score, they win a game late, whatever. You get this little clip behind the scenes of Carragher watching the game, like in the studio, right, losing his mind, like, right, because he's former Liverpool player. But then like 2 minutes later, he's like buttoned up in a suit, being like, okay, now let's analyze the game. We're like 2 minutes ago, he was doing laps in the studio, being like, hey, but all right, let's separate the bias from the thing. But you can't do that. He's still biased when he's doing the analysis.
I mean, I want the analysis to be unbiased, and but I think the rah-rah stuff is better for college because you went to the school and, when Charles Woodson's rooting for Michigan in the pregame, like that's part of it, right? Like you should root for the school. I don't know. It doesn't really matter. But JJ was looking for a way because the Steelers had this one play where 3 guys tackled Dylan Gabriel at the same time.
Yeah.
And they're all like, what happens then? Do you get a third of a sack? No. You go to the old employer who gives a full sack to anybody that tackles the quarterback. JJ's like, there's got to be a way.
If only there was a way.
If only there were a way to split credit.
Full sacks for people that sacked the quarterback, even if it happened at the same time as other players.
The turntables, Sam. JJ needs PFF now.
If only somebody had thought of this system 15 years ago where we could achieve such a thing, the world would be a better place. JJ, Mr. PFF is garbage, is suddenly coming to the realization that, this is a better way of doing things.
You don't
because
need to
all of a sudden it benefits my brother. So it's a good idea.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So For those new to the whole game, just to repeat, the NFL gives half sacks, not because it's a better measure of pass rushing. It's because it needs to add up. Because if Dylan Gabriel gets sacked 6 times, the Steelers need to have 6 defensive sacks totaled up. Either wholes or halves totaled up to 6. Even though like PFF might have 12 for the Steelers in a 6-sack game because they give full credit if you tackle the quarterback.
There's a large cohort of people out there who believe that the reason the sacks are divided into half sacks is because it's a qualitative measure, that this sack was not as good as an individual sack because you needed somebody else in order to share the sack to get the play, right? In order to get the quarterback on the ground, you needed the second guy to finish the play, so you only deserve half a sack credit. Whereas in reality, most half sacks are simply 2 people made the same individual play at the same time, and it's only split up that way so that the box score adds up, right? Which is something that doesn't need to happen. There's no actual reason that the box score needs to add up in that way because the use of those stats is generally done a completely different way. Like we are now capable of determining that both the team had 1 sack on that play, and yet 3 separate individual defenders had a sack on that play. Like, we're not in a world anymore where if those things don't add up, like brains explode and databases collapse and the world doesn't turn anymore. We're now capable of separating that out and diving into that granular detail, and we don't because it's just always been done that way.
Soapbox over. Steelers now 4-1. They have the short week coming to Cincinnati. Flacco Rodgers this Thursday night. Amazon Prime in our city, right down the street over here. And
I'm sure Brady owns this, but that's got to be pushing one of the oldest quarterback matchups of all time.
Yeah, who would Brady have? Brady Rodgers faced each other in 2020.
Yeah.
Bucks and Packers.
This is probably older than that, right?
Yeah, that was 5 years ago for Rodgers. So it might be. So an interesting stretch for the Steelers. They got the short week to face the Bengals, and then you've got Rodgers' revenge game against the Packers. Rodgers-Packers on Sunday Night Football.
Combined age of 81, the 2 starting quarterbacks.
I can't wait. We're a combined age of 86. How about that? For perspective. All right, I got no more use for this game. But we got a quick break to talk about today's sponsor, Brooklyn Bedding. Brooklyn Bedding handcrafts every mattress in their Arizona factory. No middlemen, no gimmicks, just top-tier quality, honest pricing, and real American craftsmanship for a better night's sleep. How about you and your Brooklyn Bedding mattress, Sam? How's that been going for you?
It's awesome. Giant, thick, comfortable mattress. It's like a combination of, it's got some sort of hybrid thing where it's both a firm and a soft mattress at the same time, which I didn't realize was a possibility because my wife prefers a firm mattress and I prefer a soft mattress. So it's difficult, right, to get that dialed in. But apparently Brooklyn Bedding is able to do that.
Wow. It's the best of both worlds.
It is.
Incredible customization right there. You can go to brooklynbedding.com and use our promo code CheckTheMic at checkout to get 30% off site-wide. This offer is not available anywhere else. That's brooklynbedding.com. Promo code CheckTheMic for 30% off site-wide. Make sure you enter our show name after checkout so they know that we sent you. brooklynbedding.com. Promo code CheckTheMic. All right, we're into the 4 o'clock hour here, Sam. Really the 9 o'clock hour of the show. Las Vegas Raiders 20, Tennessee Titans 10. Raiders with their second win of the season, moving to 2-4. Titans fall to 1-5. And the Titans, I think they came in to the game averaging, they were losing a quarter of a point every drop back.
Yeah.
And they were worse in this game. So not great from Tennessee's offense. Big turnovers in this game, and Cam Ward sacked 6 times, including a strip sack, right near the goal line that set up the Raiders' first touchdown.
Turnovers and almost turnovers. We had both in this game. There was another one of those classic, is the arm coming forward or not deals in this game. Same idea. Like, that was Geno Smith for a fumble 6. Only, we can slow it down. We can find a couple of frames where his arm's moving forward.
I think that was a clear incompletion.
It wouldn't have been if it was full speed. Honestly, it's not. Like, those plays we've changed what that play is.
The ball was in his hand when he threw it.
But his arm was hit. Like, his arm is hit when it's all the way back here, and then only because he's about to throw the ball is the arm able to come forward through the contact. Like, it's not.
It's an incompletion.
But that's not what that rule started off being. The rule started off being to just stop, like, we're halfway through the throwing motion and your arm is hit and the ball just pops out, right? Now it's, if we can find any time where your arm is moving forward with the ball in it, that's now an incomplete pass. We've just changed what that rule is to a way that's not. That should be a fumble, and it wasn't.
Yeah, turnovers and we'll say near turnovers were big in this game. So Cam Ward was strip sacked in his own territory. He was sacked 6 times. This one was Devin White coming in unblocked. Devin White was in and around all of these plays here. He also had a tipped pass land in his hands right before the half as the Titans were somewhat driving, or at least in Raiders territory. So they didn't score a touchdown until into the second half. And never really felt that close. Raiders in command most of the time.
Yeah, the only time
one bad interception from Geno Smith in there.
Yeah, when it was like 17-0. The only time it was like there was a vague threat that this could go somewhere else was when Geno has another awful interception, and you're like, okay, I mean that could bring the Titans back into it.
First run view from our friends at True Media. J.C. Latham made his return for the Titans, and he allowed 3 sacks. Couple of those, I mean, just no chance plays against Max Crosby.
Yeah.
And then Stone Forsythe filling in at left tackle.
Yikes.
For the Raiders, also assigned 3 sacks.
That's not great.
No.
Yeah.
The other thing I just wanted to highlight, Jeffrey Simmons playing it at high level. And every week I seem to discuss the Titans and their potential fire sale. I don't think he'd be a part of it, but man, I'd still be calling if you need defensive tackle help and you're a contender to see how much they might potentially blow it up. I think we're also at this point, I don't know how close I mean, if they hadn't won last week in the most miraculous way in a decade, they're sitting here with 0 wins.
Right.
Brian Callahan, offensive-minded head coach, and the offense looks horrendous.
Yes.
And Cam Ward, still, like, he's sacked 6 times. We talk a lot about it's on the quarterback. When there's obviously some plays that are unavoidable, like 1 or 2 of those J.C. Latham blocks. But he's drifting a lot. Like, his pocket movement has always scared me because he drifts backwards. He drifts left and right. You lose leverage up front from a blocking perspective. Then you have right guard, right tackle. There was a miscommunication. I know it was Cushenberry and Zeitler had a miscommunication on a sack. Like, it was just bad from a pass blocking perspective, but also Cam Ward mitigating pressure. The Devin White one, he's completely unblocked. So you throw in hot. Did somebody miss a block? What's happening there? It's rough offensively for the Titans. And there was, signs of life down the stretch last week. They were gifted the game, but Cam Ward still made a few big plays in there. But the snap for snap has just been pretty poor for Cam Ward in his rookie season here. The entire offense is what I'm saying.
Yeah. There's not enough help around him. Now, the risk, as you point out, is you start to develop some bad habits in that situation. Like, there were a bunch of plays. I mean, Max Crosby's amazing. There were a bunch of plays where Max Crosby's just in the backfield again, making plays against both the run and the pass. That's kind of an unavoidable problem in this matchup. But there's a bunch of plays where Cam Ward is in trouble. And, yeah, I mean, he is going to develop some rough habits with that. The question is, do those immediately go away once you improve the situation around him? If you can get the offensive line better in the offseason, if you can improve the receiving core around him in the offseason, do those immediately disappear? Or are you, starting to go down a bad pathway in that current situation?
And then from a Raiders perspective, I thought, Geno had the one bad interception in there, got sacked. How many times was it for him? Just twice? So there was a negated sack on is that what it was? Negated sack on Stone Forsythe there. Ashton Genty with a nice rushing touchdown. Genty always has the impressive 3.3 yards per carry.
Yeah.
Impressive again from him. Trey Tucker continues to make a ton of plays. And then Michael Mayer filling in for Brock Bowers. Bowers has been banged up, tried to play through the injury, missing some time now. But, Mayer stepping up, had that nice red zone touchdown and 5 catches for 50 yards.
Did you see the play where Geno tried to get Genty killed? It's like a swing pass.
Yes.
Late check down dip deal. It was like out in front of him, and Genty goes out to
he
get
got
it.
Smoked.
Yeah, it just gets wrecked.
Oh, I think I was watching with Harry at the time. He's like, why did Genty come out? I was like, well, he just got hit really hard, and I hope he comes back. He did come back into the game. That's another Cam Ward threw. We have Cam Ward, Michael Penix both threw pick sixes on late swing passes to the flat or late checkdowns. This wasn't that egregious as far as pick six worthy, but it was
no, it was more the
definitely
location.
hang him out to drive.
Yeah,
worthy.
it was more that you like let him out here with that slightly high and out in front of him. If the ball had been like right in his face, it would have been okay. But you'd let him out. You basically exposed him with the ball location into a giant hit. It was a proper kind of hospital pass.
I don't know what the Titan from a Titans perspective too. I think Tajay Spears back and looking shifty and doing some nice things, and I really like that 1-2 punch of him.
Their backfield is really nice.
Yeah, and I wonder how run heavy you can get if you're the Titans, because Cam Ward goes 26 of 38,
especially because Cam
sacked
Ward
6 times.
He could be part of that. I mean, he's athletic enough to be part of a design run game, albeit not the most dynamic runner in the world.
I wonder if I would go this extreme, old school Titan exotic. Remember the exotic? What do they call it? Exotic smash
Exotic
mouth
smash
that the
mouth,
Titans
yeah.
used to run. And it's not even a 2-back system of like both guys are out there, but you could mix that in too. But just run Pollard and run Spears, and that's it doesn't always take pressure off the quarterback because you want to pass and run situations, but you don't want Cam Ward dropping back 45 times a game.
No.
You don't.
Shout out to Jonah Laulu for the Raiders, defensive tackle who had like a chunk of pressures in this game, and including one knockdown of Cam Ward. But it was Max Crosby was a huge part of that. Devin White, obviously, as you said before, had a sack, had a couple of plays on the blitz. But Laulu had a bunch of pressure as well.
I already have people texting me about Brooklyn betting and asking about the deals, and
Nice.
they're already asking about it. So Raiders moved to 2-4. They've got the Chiefs next week in a 1:00 game. The Chiefs never play 1:00 games. You can steal, it should be a fun game. Look, if Geno takes care of the ball, he had a bad interception in this. I keep saying if Geno takes care of the ball, doesn't throw all these
Doesn't
picks,
seem likely to happen.
they're
this year.
feisty.
Yeah.
They're feisty and competitive. And pass rush got home. How much of that's Cam Ward? Raiders can be feisty on both sides of the ball. So I think it would be a fun matchup with the Chiefs next week. I get no more use for this game.
No, we out.
What's next? The Joe Flacco game. Green Bay Packers get the win over the Bengals, 27-18. Looked like the Packers would have this one in hand, but the Flacco's Bengals kept fighting. It was 24-10 into the fourth quarter, pretty late into the fourth quarter. Flacco hits Jamar Chase. You said wow on that play.
Dude, what a catch.
To make it to score the touchdown to make it 21-16. The Bengals did the go for 2, down 14 before the play, right? Down 6, you go for 2. Or down 8, you go for 2. To make it 24-18. So now you're within a possession, and if you can steal a touchdown, you got the win. But the Packers, man, they did a good job. They've done this a couple times this year where teams have, crept in close, and then they say no. Offense is taking over for the final drive. Jordan Love with a huge one to Matthew Golden, who got involved in this one. So Packers get the win to move to 3-1-1.
It's not quite like the Eagles where their offense is just either it's on or off. Like they just have a switch, right? It's either working or it's simply not functional. But the Packers have had several games this season where you watch them and the drives where it works, it looks so easy. And you're like, oh, they're going to hang 45 on this team. Like they're just going to walk away. It's going to be a comfortable win, no problem. And then it just never seems to quite do that all the way through the game. And you're like, how is this game still close?
You know what I think the difference is? The Packers, they do love to run the ball. They try to get run heavy, and Josh Jacobs had 18 carries, but then the gotta have it plays, those 3rd and longs, like Jordan Love is capable of making those. That was the key play, the 3rd and 7 little scramble drill to Matthew Golden. They make those key plays in gotta have it situations, and that helps get to that. Let's get to the 2-score game late, which is what they were able to do to go up 9.
Yeah, and look, turnovers obviously set that bank. Like his interception was kind of ugly. It was tipped, but only by the first guy that could have intercepted it. Like it's not one of those ones where the tip is the only reason it was picked. It's like one guy tipped it to another guy, and either one of them could have picked it off.
I gave Joe Flacco the credit there because Flacco was the quarterback on the other side when Love had that ugly interception, 3-4 weeks ago when he played the Browns.
Okay.
Like this is he's trying to go blow for blow with Joe Flacco.
So the Flacco thing was interesting because first drive, 3 and out, gained 1 yard. They had 4 straight punts to start the game. The Bengals, they had the offense had 65 yards in the first half, most of which came on like the 2-minute drive just before halftime. So they'd basically gone absolutely nowhere at all for most of the first half. And then They had a chance before halftime, got a 2-minute drive, got some momentum there. And then coming out of halftime, they had a 10-minute drive where they almost scored, were sort of down at the 1-yard line, then got sacked, backed up again. You're like, uh-oh, this is going to fall apart. Then they did get the touchdown on 4th down, right at the back of the end zone, like really nice play. And from that moment, it's like, okay, there's enough there where this offense actually did start to move the ball, did start to get things going. It was like he sort of realized the assignment is just put the ball in the air to T. Higgins and Jamar Chase specifically. And, I mean, that touchdown to Chase is a great example. That's not open. It's not a particularly good ball location. And Chase just makes some freak catch through a guy and makes the touchdown happen. You're like,
that's what he's there for.
That's what you're there for.
Yeah.
Only you need to do that in addition to not, putting the ball in harm's way. And that was the thing. Like, overall in this game, there was one pass that looked like it could or maybe should have been intercepted. But outside of that, it was a clean game from Flacco. And that's the difference between him this week and the Jake Browning games, where Browning at his best has had those games where he hasn't put the ball in harm's way.
Right.
This season, for some reason, he hasn't been able to do that, and he's been putting the ball in harm's way every 6 pass attempts.
Yeah, Browning's been a turnover machine. I'm always
But
amazed.
so had Flacco coming into this game.
Yeah. I'm always amazed, though, at like the short week. Everybody's like he was on a plane or he was driving, however he got here in the 4-hour trip from Cleveland. He's studying the playbook, and they're showing him his old plays and renaming them. And I'm always amazed at the precision that it takes to play quarterback and receiver and run routes at the right depth and timing and everything, that it can even work on a short week, even for like a however long almost 18-year veteran like Joe Flacco. But I thought he did well for the first game here. The short week now coming up against the Steelers. But yeah, just get the ball to Jamar Chase and T. Higgins, and it gave them a chance. DJ Turner had a huge game for the Bengals as well. Always got to shout him out. And then Trey Hendrickson left the game with a back injury. So now you're left with
no pass rush again.
No pass rush whatsoever. And if he's not good to go Thursday night, like you have, I know the Steelers have done a nice job mitigating the pass rush for good pass rushing teams. But Hendrickson's the one shot you have against Broderick Jones. So that's something to keep an eye on for the Thursday night game. And then just from a Green Bay perspective, I thought they did a nice job. Matthew Golden, getting him involved. Couple runs for 16 yards, but 3 catches for 86. Hit a nice deep ball for him early. Starting to use his athleticism and dynamism that we doubted a little bit at draft time, but started to see that on the field, certainly in this game.
Yeah. The other element of this with the Joe Flacco part is the Packers. I mean, they did manage to basically stop the Packers' pass rush from really getting home and causing massive problems. They got pressure, but they didn't sack him a ton. And that's a huge part of it, is Joe Flacco behind this offensive line looked like it was going to be a huge problem. And he was sacked once, I think, in the game.
Pocket manipulation by Joe Flacco. Yeah, 1 sack for 6 yards. I thought the difference, though, Josh Jacobs ran the ball well. He had the C's parted on his, it was a 14-yard touchdown. It was the big plays in the pass game. They flipped the field with Matthew Golden multiple times. Josh Jacobs on a 29-yard pass that set up a score, right? Tucker Kraft catch and run for a 24-yard touchdown. It was the big plays in this one for the Packers that they made, and there was only so much I think Flacco and the Bengals could do. They played it right, though, man. They gave their receivers a chance. They went for 2 to get within 6, and then they just needed the defense to make a stop. Packers made more plays and just held onto the ball and got that last field goal to go up 9.
Yeah, and speaking of field goals, we have to mention the Evan McPherson thing. They gave him a shot from 67, twice technically.
NFL record is 66.
Right, and that's indoors. So this would have been, it would have been the longest field goal of all time anyway, but it certainly would have been the longest one outdoors. Evan McPherson takes a shot from 67, makes it off the crossbar. Like, it had 67 and it was good from 67. No more. Hit the crossbar, goes over. Only they'd iced him. Matt LaFleur had been there with right next to the official, hitting timeout just before the snap.
It's mean, Matt LaFleur.
Got to take it again, and the second one was way short. He got underneath it, didn't get it close, landed sort of halfway into the end zone. But again, just more evidence that these NFL kickers, even outdoors in Lambeau, have 67 yards in them as a range.
And a reminder that there was a 70-yarder in the preseason by Jags kicker Cam Little.
They've got 67 in them and a coach willing to let them take the shot at 67.
All right, so I've mentioned a million times the Bengals have this short week coming up against the Steelers. Packers move to 3-1-1 here. They do play the Steelers in a couple weeks as well. The Aaron Rodgers game, they got the Cardinals next week as the Packers get back on track here with the win. They were coming off a tie and a bye. They had to sit on that tie for the whole bye week, Green Bay. Let's go Tampa Bay Bucks, 30. San Francisco 49ers, 19. Bucks move to 5-1. Niners fall to 4-2. Baker Mayfield does it again. He's like the story of the league now, Sam. The Bucks receivers dropping like flies. They're losing offensive linemen. Emeka Egbuka, just 2 catches in this game, then comes out with a hamstring injury. Doesn't matter. Baker Mayfield continues to make big plays for the Bucks as they move to 5-1.
Yeah, I mean, it's crazy the players that he's missing. I mean, not just that, but remember, Bucky Irving's out as well. Like, the offensive line has been banged up, albeit getting healthier. It's still, I mean, they were down to their 4th string right guard, I think, in this game.
Yeah.
At one point, they're down literally their top 4 wide receivers in the game, or top 4 wide receivers for the season are now gone at some point. You've got Tez Johnson making plays. Was he a 7th-round draft pick in the end? Tez Johnson making plays. Cameron Johnson making plays as well. Baker's old roommate, Sterling Shepard. You hate when I bring that up, but Sterling Shepard was basically done in the NFL until Baker's like, yeah, we could use him on the practice squad.
Because you say it's Baker's old roommate, like me calling up my buddy from college, be like, hey, come on down, we got an opening in the receiving core. It's like, well, Sterling Shepard, what was he, a 2nd-round pick? Was he a 1st-rounder?
No. Not at first.
He wasn't first, but former somewhat productive receiver for the Giants for a period of time.
Yeah, well, ish. 2nd round, 40th overall draft pick. It's just that, I mean, at some point in the game, once all the guys have gone down, Ibuka's down, Egg Big Boo. Once he's down, it's Baker's receiving core is his old college roommate, who the NFL was done with before Baker gave him a phone call, Tez Johnson, who weighs like 150 pounds, and then the other Cameron Johnson, who no one had heard of. It's like, what is this? And not only are they making it work, but like, deep strike to Tez Johnson, like they're big plays being made. It's crazy. And then, even on top of that, you've got absurd signature 3rd and 14 Baker Mayfield avoiding chaos in the backfield, breaking through tackles, extending the ball over the line and getting the first down.
That's what I'm calling
it. It's just nuts.
The Baker quake. Forget the Beast quake. Last year we had the Bucky quake, Bucky Irving. This was the Baker quake. I mean, I'm watching this play thinking there's no way he could do this again. Because earlier in the game, he actually did get sacked. Michael Williams had the first sack was that the first sack of his career? Anyway, he had stumbled into a sack because Baker Mayfield didn't navigate the pocket well for one play. And so he's navigating the pocket, and it's 3rd and 14 on that one?
Yeah.
And I'm like, there's no way, right? They had him dead
even once he gets out of the sacks, you're like, okay, fine, that's nice.
Right, it'll be a 5-yard gain, 8-yard gain, and he still finds a way to convert the first down. Incredible play. And then was it the very next play? Hits Tez Johnson behind the defense for a 45-yard touchdown. Just those 2 plays back to back.
And what a catch that was by Tez.
It was such a good. It was a great throw because you got to put it out there.
It was like Marvin Harrison fingertip diving type
Incredible.
of snag.
Tez Johnson, man, I don't care that he ran 4.55 at 145 pounds at the combine. The dude can play football just like he did at Oregon.
And this was like an adjustment. It wasn't, just he sort of realized, they're not covering this. I'm going to stick the hand up and run deep into the space, and Baker hits him.
Incredible play. I mean, the back-to-back plays, Baker Mayfield getting MVP hype because every single week it's break free from a sack. He's 3rd in the league in scramble yards right now and picking up key first downs. And he started this, he did it a little bit 2 years ago, but last year in particular, he would have these games where even when he wasn't throwing the ball well, he'd pick up 3 or 4 first downs with his legs and just find ways to put the Bucs in position to win. And that's what he's doing. And you have to look at the circumstances and say, top 3 receivers are all hurt. He's pulling his roommate from just out of the dorm at Oklahoma, throwing to him, bringing him into the NFL, Sterling Shepard, and finding a way to get the job done and score 30 points.
He's the one guy where his effectiveness on scrambling, he's the one guy where you look at it and say, I can't easily explain this with like physical tools. You know, like when Josh Allen is able to pick up plays, you're like, all right, that makes sense. He's huge. He's bigger, stronger, and faster than most of the people he's going up against. When Baker Mayfield makes these plays, you're like, Baker's, 6'1" and 215 pounds and not particularly fast. You're like, how is this working? And it's not in the same way of like Mahomes, where like there's some weird trick of physics here where he's just faster than whoever's chasing him, regardless of who's chasing him. Baker isn't. Like, he's clearly not faster, stronger, or bigger than the guys chasing him, and yet he's somehow still making it work.
We're in a golden age of slippery quarterbacks in the pocket.
Yes.
Difficult to tackle quarterbacks in the pocket, whether it makes sense or doesn't make sense.
Right. Golden age of unexplainable scrambling success.
Funny beginning to the game, too. Mac Jones throws an ugly-looking interception, clear miscommunication.
Right.
He's throwing an out route. It's a miscommunication, which should have been a pick six. But God, how many times did who was it? Who had that? Who caught the ball? Vildor tripped like 4 times on the way to his pick six that never was. And then Jamel Dean had a game-clinching pick six, dropped into cover 2. Mac Jones, I thought he played all right. Again, you have the miscommunication interception, but you just allowed – look, it's a different Shanahan team. They had their first rushing touchdown of the season. They are not running the ball effectively. Christian McCaffrey still not –
like historically badly for this team. Like it's like the first time they've gone 10 straight games or something with like 85 or fewer rushing yards, which I think was the first time in franchise history that's ever happened.
Yeah, and they were still having like
on a team that's supposed to be at the other end of that spectrum.
And it's not like the offense hasn't been great, but they were winning games, and it's Mac Jones without their top 2 or 3 receivers.
Yeah.
And just getting Kendrick Bourne big plays in there, giving him opportunities, Jake Tonjes making plays, McCaffrey out of the backfield. And, they're stitching it together as well.
So Mac Jones is going to it's a very weird analysis this week for him because, like, he puts up almost 350 yards. The passer rating, the other numbers don't look great because of 2 interceptions, one of which is just a straight miscommunication that's probably unborn, who then came back and had a huge game off the back of that. The other one of which, that's not good.
It was like I think it was 4th and 6. He did misread it. But,
yeah. So it's bad, but it's 4th down, but it's at least one seriously negative play. The other one doesn't really count. But then outside of that, like he's absolutely feeling these deep to intermediate in-breaking classic Shanahan system plays. And like you're seeing this combination of like Alabama anticipation Mac Jones plus Shanahan dialed up 20-yard in-breaking routes off the back of play action.
Yeah.
And they're like, he is dialed in on those. He is just firing those with amazing success. And okay, that's not necessarily enough all the time, but those plays look spectacular.
Imagine if the Niners just had him.
They just drafted him 3 overall.
They could have 3 Super Bowls probably. So it's tough from an injury perspective for the Niners, and that's the other big story with this one. Fred Warner, ankle injury, out for the season. So you're now missing Fred Warner, Nick Bosa from this defense, in addition to we haven't seen Brandon Ayuk yet. Ricky Pearsall's hurt. All of the injuries. George Kittle, all-star players now for the Niners.
Yeah, there's a few teams where we keep talking about them. They're so banged up, but theoretically they're going to get healthier, and come December, they're going to be a different unit. You could say the same thing about the 49ers, and the fact that they've won a bunch of these games early has been huge, but the 2 most important players they've lost, they're losing them for the season. Nick Bosa's already out for the year, and then Fred Warner's ankle injury, just such a horrible freak injury as well, like rolled up on, just unlucky, and then that's the ankle done, and he's done for the year as well. 2 of the most important players in the NFL, 2 of the 10 Defensive Player of the Year candidates in the NFL in any given season, they're as important as you could possibly get, and you've lost them both from the same defense in the last couple of weeks.
The play we talked about a little while ago, Levante David had what should have been or could have been a strip sack. He punches the ball out. Mac Jones, they barely had his shin down. Shin counts before the knee. If it was just the knee, probably would have been a fumble. It was a big play at the time. It was a 1-score game. It would have put the Bucs in field goal range to make it a 2-score game. They ended up punting the Niners instead. But that was really close. It was like that Saints-Patriots play that you'd mentioned.
What was interesting about this one is that they overturned it. they called it a fumble they called it a fumble live, and then on replay overturned it. And look, it was one where it was like a bit like the Saints one on Juwan Johnson, where the punch is coming in. The punch takes place before whatever it is down. But it's like, does he lose control before that happens? And they're like, nah. But either way, there's like frames in it, like super slow-mo.
Oh, yeah.
We're talking 1 or 2 frames in either direction. I'm kind of amazed that they decided that was conclusive enough to overturn that call, whether or not you think it was the right call or not. Like, generally speaking, it's supposed to be, is there incontrovertible evidence or whatever the term is? I'm not sure you can call that incontrovertible based off like a frame here or there where it's debating, is it out now or not?
So coming out of this, we have a showdown next week. Bucs and Lions, part of the Monday night doubleheader next week. Bucs at Detroit, 5-1. Tampa Bay, 4-2. Detroit. Niners are on Sunday Night Football, facing the Falcons. Falcons play tonight, of course. They're 2-2 currently, but the Niners 4-2, along with the Rams and Seahawks in the West. Bucs at 5-1. We're talking number 1 overall seed implications next week in this game in Detroit. So should be fun. All right, let's wrap it up with Detroit losing to the Chiefs. Chiefs get the win on Sunday Night Football. Where did it go? What was the final here? What did I just click on that killed it? 30-17 was the final. I don't have every score memorized in my head. I apologize. Chiefs get the win 30-17. Moving to 3-3, Lions fall to 4-2. Little fight after the game. Brian Branch upset.
That's not a great look.
It was not at all. Dan Campbell even said as much. Good win for the Chiefs, though. The Lions were depleted in the secondary. We mentioned that coming in, and both safeties, Kirby Joseph and Brian Branch, playing with leg injuries. Joseph did leave the game at one point, came back in. So I think that hurt on the back end for Detroit.
I mean, crazy depleted as well. Not just, they're missing a couple of players. They were missing 5 of their top 6 cornerbacks heading into the season. Both safeties are hurt and had like game time decisions to see if they could even go. Kirby Joseph is spending like running back and forth to the medical tent, getting taped up and stuff. That's the entire secondary. Like the entire secondary, including nickel formations and that's why. So they're playing base defense basically the entire game. I assume to try and mitigate the fact that they got no cornerbacks left standing, going up against Patrick Mahomes and the Chiefs. You're like, okay, that's a pretty big handicap to start the game.
So let's start at the beginning of the game here, and we'll work our way toward the end. The Lions, most teams in the NFL defer, and I still feel like announcers are like surprised at both ends. Like, oh, this team deferred. Why would you do that? Like, oh, this team received. Why would you do that? The Lions chose to receive. The Chiefs always defer. They want the ball in the second half. I'm team defer because I always wanted the extra possession in the second half rather than the first. So the Lions take the ball and then spend, 10 minutes driving down the field.
Yep.
A classic drive. Keep Mahomes off the field. Shorten the game. Perfect. Everything's perfect. And then they line up on 4th and goal from the 1. And they motion Jared Goff out from under center. It's going to be a Wildcat direct snap to David Montgomery.
Right.
We're all watching for Montgomery to run up the middle, and he throws a screen to Jared Goff, who powers his way past Amon-Ra St. Brown, his blocker.
Well, first of all, almost like lost the ball on the back of the Amon-Ra block, and then ends up snagging it again, and then, just running through the block of Amon-Ra and whoever the cornerback was. They run a wide receiver screen to Jared Goff, and it scores. Only it didn't. Because
the rule is
take it away on a technicality.
So much like when you shift, so you can motion somebody, they can stay in motion. But when you shift, usually 2 or more players, or you shift, you have to reset. The quarterback, when he comes out from under center, has to pause
for a second. This is one of these. You were talking about how there's a bunch of these sort of bureaucratic rules that don't really serve anybody and kind of suck. This one might be the single worst one because this one exists only for the benefit of officials. This is just to make it easier for them to realize when these things motion and when it's legal, right? That's why it exists, not because it's unfair to the defense or whatever. It's literally there just to make things slightly easier for the officials to actually keep track of.
And to Terry McAuley's credit, he nailed it.
It's all over it.
He saw it immediately. He said, no, Jared's got to pause.
Yeah.
So rule of cool did not apply here. Cool play. Jared Goff powering his way into the end zone on a wide receiver screen. Lions have to settle for 3 instead of 7. So they move back 5 yards. It's 4th and goal from the 6. They kick the field goal. And then the Chiefs come right back and score a touchdown right off the bat, which is huge, right? From a game flow perspective, the Chiefs offense looks really good, and they scored quickly. And they went up 6-3 because they missed the extra point, but
and they went for their own 4th and goal. They got it to Xavier Worthy. So in both those opening drives, in fact, I mean, with every Dan Campbell game, 4th down decisions are going to be a huge part of it just because of the way they operate. But they went for their 4th down in that first drive, got what they thought was a touchdown, got it taken off the board, had to settle for a field goal because of the penalty. The Chiefs go for their 4th and goal. They get it to Xavier Worthy, who just roasts his guy off the line, Amik Robertson. And so immediately, just based off, both teams did exactly the same thing effectively. Both went aggressive. Both tried to make the play. And because of that bureaucratic technicality, one of them's got a touchdown, the other one's got a field goal.
4th downs were huge in this game because both teams then traded 4th down stops. The Chiefs had a pass breakup on their 4th down. It was because they went for it again. And then I mentioned in the preview, the lights in Kansas City. There's going to be a few extra drops in this game. Amon-Ra drops a 4th and 3. Throw was a little low, but it was there. And that's huge, right? Like, you have to hit your 4th downs in this game where every single possession is at a premium. I thought that was the turning point in the game. It was a 1-score game. Detroit, they dropped the pass on 4th and 3, and then the Lions were up. Were they up 10-6 at that time? Either way, the Chiefs end up leading at the half, 13-10.
Yeah, I mean, you can definitely argue this game, the only difference between the two teams is 4th downs in the game. Basically, every 4th down difference went Kansas City's way instead of Detroit's.
And this is where the Chiefs. So the Chiefs scored right before the half, and why I always like to defer. They scored at the end of the half. They scored the beginning of the second half, so they're up 20-10. Chiefs offense was cooking again in this one, Sam. I mean, it was the same feeling. And if you look against Jacksonville, they move the ball extremely well. Mahomes makes a really bad red zone decision that becomes a 99-yard pick 6. I'm not saying take that out, but if you did take out one play over the last 3 weeks between the Ravens game, the Jags game, and this game, the Chiefs offense was moving the ball very well and looking like the old Chiefs, as in they have answers to everything. Under center run game was effective in this game. They were using it more often. All the RPO stuff, all the little dump offs. I like the way Chris was calling them jabs and getting the ball out quickly to Juju and to Kelsey and to Xavier Worthy, and how much that softens the defense and opens it up downfield, even though they didn't really throw the ball downfield much in this game. Chiefs offense looks really good. Now, I think it's been a little easier for them going up against depleted bad Ravens defense and depleted Lions defense, but it still looks like peak Chiefs with their balance right now on the offensive side of the ball.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's fair. I think at this point the conclusion is that both of those things are true. I think it's fair to say, look, the Ravens defense is hot garbage at the moment, or it certainly was when they played Kansas City, and Detroit missing literally the entire secondary effectively in terms of health. Of course they're going to struggle against Kansas City. Like, a team went out there and played base defense regardless of what they were looking at effectively because they didn't have enough corners to play anything else. Going up, I mean, if you simply told somebody that going into a game, this team doesn't have enough healthy bodies to play anything other than base defense, and they're going up against Patrick Mahomes and the Chiefs offense, what's going to happen? You would inevitably conclude, well, of course the Chiefs are going to cook and put up points. So I think it's fair to say that it's certainly in those two games they were given massive advantages just by who they were playing. But it's also, I think, reasonable to say that it has looked significantly better, particularly with Xavier Worthy back in the lineup. They're going to get Rashee Rice back soon as well. It is looking more like the Chiefs' offense of old than it has looked for a long time.
And that's a huge point, right? I know the Chiefs they missed Rashee Rice last year, and they had the O-line reshuffle and everything, but they have been relatively healthy on their runs these last few years. And now, Friday's practice for the Chiefs had 0 injury designations. Do you realize how wild that is? I know there's players on IR and everything, and Rashee Rice is suspended, and then Josh Simmons, personal reason, he was missing at left tackle last night. But I'm saying going forward, the Chiefs are sitting here at 3-3. They had 0 injury designations at their Friday practice, including Xavier Worthy, who had been banged up early. And they have Rashee Rice coming back. Meanwhile, you have other teams down to fourth stringers at running back or fifth and sixth stringers at corner or whatever, or the Giants having their fourth string wide receivers, right? And the Chiefs look like the healthiest team in the league once again. And so they're a dangerous 3-3 team as they're starting to figure it out. And while the attrition war is happening around the league with injuries, the Chiefs are sitting in pretty good position right now. And I think at the end of the day that, wore out the Lions because they were unable to make key stops when they needed to. They fought back. Sam Laporta had an awesome touchdown.
Dude, great catch.
Back of the end zone. Just did what Isaiah Likely couldn't do last year at the back of the end zone in Kansas City in Arrowhead at night. They fought back. They did what they could, but it was Spags and them made some key stops in there as well, and they got the win.
Yeah, fourth downs are huge. The Chiefs, when they get to the low red zone, are still just absolutely filthy in terms of the stuff they can bring out. I mean, that option run they pulled out is ridiculous. Like a misdirection where like the quarterback opens to his left, the running back takes a step to his left. It looks for all the world like they're going to run some kind of, zone play to the left, and instead Mahomes spins back around and it's like a full quarterback option play to the right, where he's got the pitch running back outside him, and instead he just keeps it himself, goes in. I mean, that probably was what started the Brian Branch upset part. Like he sort of, well, I'm not going to say he taunted him, but his celebration was definitely pointed in the direction of Brian Branch, who was the guy that wasn't able to sort of come out and make the play along with the quarterback on the option. But that, like, the Xavier Worthy stuff, the stuff the Chiefs are able to dial up in the low red zone is pretty disgusting. I think they're so good at that.
You know how big of a game it is for Andy Reid when he breaks out any level of speed option. I'm just telling you, there are playoff games through the years. He did it with Alex Smith, where he would, like, first play of the game, just run a speed option. I need to sit down with Andy why he loves to, like, break out the speed option as part of the script. Like, what are you reading at the beginning? Because he did that with Mahomes a couple times in the playoffs. And it did feel like, because we mentioned this on the preview show, it's an NFC game. It doesn't really mean a ton more than other games, but they can't afford to fall to 2-4, right? It did feel like there are certain games that they break out the good plays. And when you see the speed option, Andy means business. And it did feel like a very playoff-type game from the Chiefs, where they had, key fourth down plays, the option stuff, the couple design runs for Mahomes, a couple scrambles in there for Mahomes, and then, just crack down defensively when they needed to. Felt very playoff-like for Kansas City in this one because they didn't feel like they could afford to fall to 2-4.
But the other thing is it felt far less dependent on Mahomes than it did earlier in the season. Like the first couple of games, it was like Mahomes is doing almost all this by himself. I mean, he is picking up these crazy scrambles. He's carrying this team individually because he knows if he doesn't do it, they're not winning. This felt more like, all right, yeah, Mahomes is still making some plays, but it's other people making plays in addition to that, and he's much more of the facilitator than the guy literally carrying this offense by himself. That's a huge development for them. We need to give, I think, recognition to both backup left tackles in this game. So, as you said, Simmons was added to the injury report with a non-injury thing, a personal issue that he was dealing with, so wasn't able to make this game. So Jalen Moore gets the start at left tackle. Jalen Moore, remember, they signed as a free agent ostensibly to start at left tackle. They gave him pretty healthy starting type of money, and then they end up drafting Josh Simmons, and suddenly Jalen Moore is just a backup. Well, he comes in, he starts, played pretty damn well, gave up a couple of pressures. Two of them were to Aiden Hutchinson on inside moves, one of which I think he actually countered really well and kind of shut him off again anyway. Like, did Aiden Hutchinson span inside him, and he did that whole spin back the other way and ended up blocking him the second time. The sack he gave up wasn't great, but that's still a pretty good return going up against the Lions and their pass rush. And then the Lions, Dan Skipper's out there at left tackle because Canada got himself landed on the IR. So third string offensive tackle, Dan Skipper, goes out there and gives up very little pressure.
Shout out to people who used to list at 6'10" and might be shorter than that. Dan Skipper, like me, holding it down for us.
Yeah.
People who have been listed at 6'10" at various, like Ali Villanueva. once listed at 6'10" until he got to the league. They realized he wasn't a 6'10" receiver for Army. Tough one for Detroit given the circumstances. I thought we were going to see that back and forth offensive battle, and they just got stopped a couple times along the way there. Good game, though, and they've got, bigger game for Detroit is the Bucs game because of the playoff implications there. And now Kansas City, they've got the Raiders, and they still have – I think they had a very difficult start to the season with the Lions, Ravens, and Eagles early on, Chargers early on. They still have to play the Commanders, Bills over these next few weeks here. So it doesn't get much easier for Kansas City, but it was huge for them to get to 3-3, and Detroit hosting the Bucs next week on Monday Night Football.
Yeah, it ends up being a big game to win just because the Chargers and Broncos won as well. If either one of those teams had dropped games, you would be like, it wouldn't have been that big. I've never been that concerned by Kansas City just because nobody's running away with that division. They're going to have their opportunities to get back into it. And again, worst case scenario, the 6th and 7th AFC seeds for wild card spots are going to be pretty attainable. So really anybody at this point is still live for those shots.
And by the way, now second straight year, Detroit's defense got destroyed by injuries last year, and they kept surviving. They kept battling and winning games because their offense was so good. This year, it's all in the secondary for Detroit, and their offense was pretty healthy last year. Now they've got injuries kind of both sides of the ball. Like, you just gotta. They still have the pieces to be explosive on offense. They're be a very difficult out in the dome, but it's another year where they got to battle all the injuries and have their stars make plays.
Yeah, I mean they need that secondary to get healthier. I mean that's the kind of concentration of injuries in one unit that's very, very difficult to overcome. And yeah, they could do it against most teams, but not against Kansas City on Sunday Night Football.
All right, man, I think that's everything. Is that every game?
Hopefully.
Hopefully. We wrote out all the games. Let's make sure. Did we touch on everything? There's 2 more tonight. We got Bills-Falcons tonight. We got Bears-Commanders tonight. Some fun games, 7:15 and 8:15. Doubleheader time. My favorite Monday Night Football breakdown, 7:15 and 8:15. We'll see if there's any coaching news this week. I don't know. We're getting close. Getting close for the first turnover. There's crazy college coaching news. James Franklin fired at Penn State.
$50 million buyout.
Yeah.
Dude, the bag you get from getting shit canned from your job, if the job is high enough, is spectacular. Like, if you're a professional coach of a high-level, expensive franchise, whether it's NFL, college football, soccer, like Jose Mourinho has been busy touring Europe, collecting buyout fees in the millions for years now.
It's the dream.
It's an
man.
absolute jackpot. I saw Dave Portnoy who was like bitching about it and being like, in what other industry, can you basically collect a bag for being fired from being terrible at your job? And unfortunately for him, the answer is actually quite a lot of them. It's just, it's not specifically a sports problem like CEOs and all this kind of thing.
Yeah, in other
but
places,
it is like
they call it a severance package.
Yeah,
it's another other places.
But it's another great example of like, it's the inequality thing at work, right? Like, the lower down you are on the pecking order, the more unlikely it is you get anything for being fired. You just get run out of the building. But the higher you are in almost any walk of life, firing is a great thing. You just get put on gardening leave or sent home, and you're still entitled to your money.
That's it.
It's really the dream. I mean, being paid millions of dollars to coach a football team, college or the NFL, seems like a pretty great gig, Like, it sounds like that sounds fun. I would love to do that. Being paid the same number of millions to not do that also seems pretty good.
I mean, we'll see what happens with the UNC guys, Belichick and Lombardi. Not a lot of good stories coming out of Chapel Hill right now.
Yeah.
Shocking.
Yeah.
That the GM's not doing a great job there.
Yes. Well, it's certainly, I think there is a degree of shock that the Bill Belichick part of it is not going tremendously well. I mean, even like Matt Patricia's defense is currently looking phenomenal at the college level, and in large part because it's like they're doing NFL caliber things, and that's a level that college offenses are just not used to contending with. Belichick's is not. And even in the end of his New England tenure, the one thing that's still true is that defense still has teeth. So that's kind of surprising. The fact that Michael Lombardi is bad at his job is not in the least bit surprising to me.
Well done. Apparently, you're not the only one who believes that, or we're not the only ones who believe that.
I mean, there's like film evidence going back decades, so it's not the most shocking thing in the world.
For those who care, the college coaching carousel, though, is going to be wild. Just this whole season, it's going to be crazy. And now that James Franklin's added to it, and there's other potential jobs added to it, and there's a lot of movement. There's a lot going on there.
Mohal's asking, do we get a severance package from PFF? The answer is no, in large part because we quit rather than we're fired.
Yeah.
Had we been fired, our severance package would have been 2 weeks' wages. It wouldn't have worked out well if it had gone that way either.
You got some T-shirts.
Yeah, that wasn't part of a package. That was just stuff we got given down the years.
It's true. I didn't actually get anything.
Like I got this thing that I've crossed out PFF and scribbled in check the mic instead. But not as a severance package. They just gave us those down the years.
Oh, I can't wait to have a GM job and get fired. I'll take the ego hit.
Are we still in the Hall of Fame? We've got a little crystal trophy thing as well.
Yeah, we're Hall of Famers at PFF.
Hall of Fame.
PFF
Do we get kicked out of that?
Lots
we're not in the Slack channel anymore.
You don't get. We're not in the Slack channel. You're right. We don't get to vote on future Hall of Famers?
That's what I'm saying. Like, are we?
It's not really a well planned out process.
No. I mean, it's unusual. You don't tend to get, like, if a guy leaves the league, he's just out of the Hall of Fame now. You're no longer a part of it. You're in as long as you're associated, but as soon as you go.
It feels like we should have a channel outside of the PFF Slack.
But, like, as soon as we left the company and other people, in fact,
good point.
You're removed from the PFF Hall of Fame Slack channel, which I assume removes you from the Hall of Fame.
Where I dropped the ball, though, we were supposed to have Hall of Fame jackets. Then we wanted to get watches. And we just.
You were given the assignment to get Hall of Fame watches, and you fumbled it. You did well. You didn't even fumble.
Should I
it.
engrave
nothing?
Engrave PFF on this?
Like just scratch it in yourself.
PFF Hall of Famer. Anyway, are we the late Steven? I guess we are.
Yeah, probably.
Dead to them. Dead to them.
Certainly are.
Big week. First off, if you guys have mailbag questions, want to start weaving those into the Wednesday show. Love the Wednesday show. This Wednesday, I think we're talking trades. I believe we're talking trade candidates and Schefter predicted Tuesday trades every week. So we'll probably have something to react to.
News.
Anyway.
There should be news on a weekly basis of trades happening.
But email us in.
Particularly
check the mic.
if these injuries continue.
Oh, for sure. Check the mic at the33team.com. So send your emails in. We'll hit on the best ones. We'll do shouty shows. Maybe have special guests. We'll have the Bugler update.
Yeah.
And we should just try to sneak you into the Cincinnati game.
Just go there with a fedora and a thing saying press in it. Just
Associated Press. Voter. You're one of 50.
Yeah.
50 votes in the world, and you have one of them.
Mm-hmm.
Can't even get into a Bengals game.
No.
All right, I'm out of
here. Do you think PFF will ever have us on their show? Guests returning? We've had Trevor on,
Did we have Trevor officially on our show?
Yeah.
We did, right, for the draft. We had a draft recap.
Twice, in fact. We had him on the draft, like, favorite prospects thing, and then we had him on the review show.
Left on good terms. Have us by the studio. I have not driven to PFF offices yet. I was half asleep this morning driving, thinking, no, stay straight. You got it. Yeah. Stay straight. Don't go right.
I still doubt they're going to have us on their show.
You don't think so?
No. We're not as big a draw as Teron Armstead.
Really?
Well, who knows?
I mean,
I haven't checked the numbers.
I would argue that the chat thinks we're more popular than Teron.
I haven't run the data.
If we asked, I don't think they'll ask us. If we asked to join their show, we would. If we have our agents talk to them,
if our people reach out to their people, you think we can get on?
Yeah, they would. But why? We've got check the mic here.
I don't know.
We have Renner. We bring people on here. Did you get Austin Gill this week? Did he get back to you?
Suppose I was going to text him now to figure out. He's still working through the bureaucracy at the Ringer, as far as I'm aware. I'll text him now and find out if this is going to happen.
Find out. We might have Austin for Wednesday. And also do the membership thing. Sign up for the memberships. When's our next watch-along going to be? At least by next week, right?
It's supposed to be this week, right?
Are we doing it this week?
I don't know.
Steelers-Bengals? Watch-along coming soon for members only.
I mean, we're not going to be let into the building, so here's as good a place as any.
Yeah, might as well here in Cincinnati. All right, let's just do it this week. Bengals-Steelers. All right, thanks to everybody for tuning in. We'll see you again on Wednesday with more Check the Mic.